month's Parks and Recreation Greenway Advisory Board meeting is now in session. First up, we have our liaison report from the Raleigh Youth Council. We're excited. We haven't seen them all summer, so I believe Miles is here. Miles, welcome back.
Good evening. I'm Miles. I'm the chair of the Raleigh Youth Council. I'm going to discuss some of the things we've been doing so far this year. So we started our 2025-2026 year. It's officially begun, and it's off to a great start. Last month, we had a public speaking meeting where council members were divided into groups and had to present many presentations about leadership. We also hosted College Night Part 1, where 2 representatives from the College Advising Corps came and shared useful information about college prep. At our meetings this past Monday, we had Specialized Recreation and Inclusion Services, or SRIS, come to discuss proper interactions with people with disabilities and special needs in preparation for the upcoming dance, which is coming up very soon. We also carved pumpkins at that meeting. It was a very fun, festive time for Halloween. We kicked off our community service events on September 13th with a park cleanup at Peach Road Park. We had 13 members in attendance. And on October 2nd, we played flag football scrimmages with the SRIS Challenger flag football team to prepare them for the competition in Charlotte. On October 11th, the executive board members, including me, attended the 2025 State Youth Council Leadership Conference. It was an opportunity for us to meet and skill build with the leaders of other youth councils. And upcoming on Saturday, October 25th, from 7 to 9 p.m. at JC Community Center, we will host our annual Specialized Recreation Halloween Dance, which I had spoken about earlier, for teens and adults with disabilities and special needs. This is one of our larger events, and we need a lot of volunteers for it. If you are not interested in joining RYC but would love to help at this event, it is posted in the City of Raleigh Volunteer Services site. If you know someone who would like to participate in this event, please share it with them. And at our next meeting on Monday, October 27th, from 7 to 8 p.m. at Kiwanis Neighborhood Center, we will be discussing mental health and wellness. If you are a high school teen or know any high schoolers, we accept new members year-round, so please join us. Thank you all very much. Do you have any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Miles. Any questions for Miles? Okay, thank you.
Thank you again.
All right. Next up on the agenda is public comment, and we actually have one public comment that came in through our hotline, and I think we have a few more that are in the room with us right now. So I'll start with the online public comment. This is Bob Metz from 3103 Plantation Road in Crabtree Heights. My wife and I would like to give some feedback regarding the possibility of extending the Greenway through our neighborhood. I think you've already heard there's concerns of safety. People back out sometimes almost blindly because they're up a hill out of driveways. Having a Greenway across their property and their driveway is a significant safety risk. The other is the Child Daycare Center, which is down on the corner of Six Forks and Plantation. There's traffic in the morning as parents are dropping the children off and picking them up in the afternoon. That would be a potential hazard of having a Greenway. In addition to the safety route that I've cited, I've been a bicyclist on the Greenway, and I love it. I have to cross Six Forks Road to get to it, but the feeling of being in a forest, of being alone, of not being crowded is a significant one that is an advantage for the Greenway system that we have. Having a Greenway through a residential neighborhood that's proposed doesn't fit the spirit of what a Greenway is supposed to be. And of course, the cost has to be significant because you've got water, sewage, fiber, cable phones, power, every telephone poles, big trees. All that has to be done in order to put the Greenway in. The last comment I'll make is that in my bike riding that I've been on the Greenway, I've never had to cross someone's front yard. And matter of fact, I haven't crossed any residential areas at all, and I discouraged that we would put this in through our neighborhood. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Goodbye. All right. And now we have a list of, okay. And now we have a list of folks that are in the room that are ready to make public comments. So first up is Andrew Crook. Mr. Crook. And just for everybody's sake, we do have a lot of folks signed up for public comments, so there's a three-minute limit. I'm going to probably cut you guys off pretty quickly after 3 minutes, just as an FYI. So, Mr. Crook.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Andrew Crook, and I live at 3123 Belvin Drive, and I'm speaking in favor of the streamside option for the Big Branch Greenway connector. On a very personal matter, we moved in last summer in September. We were greeted by a foot of water from a 10-year flood right when we moved in after a month. And so I'm very appreciative. I want to point out that I'm appreciative of the described mitigation efforts under consideration with this project. And I assume impervious building codes is enough for another meeting that we'll talk about later. So we have lived in numerous locations in Wake County. And I can say, as a former runner, hopeful future runner, dog owner, now a parent, that greenways matter, which I know you guys know as being a part of this committee, especially when making life-changing decisions are being made about where to live. And so we were ecstatic to learn that in our process of considering Belvin last year, that Big Branch connector was coming. And so I want to share my appreciation. Thank you all that have come before us in setting the vision to establish a crown jewel, generational Greenway master plan. Thank you to the city leaders that have had the vision to help execute part of this plan with the 2022 Park Bond referendum and the over 100,000 members of our community that voted for it, which was over 75% of the population of the vote. Thank you to city staff, committee members, council members who have done the hard work developing, analyzing, adjusting, accommodating so many voices into the final product, part of which over 1,000 of our neighbors have spoken into with a clear plurality in favor of the streamside option. Decisions that have generational impact cannot and should not be made in a vacuum. And so I am most grateful that this plan reflects all past, present, and future vision. And I look forward to the day that hopefully my future grandchildren can learn to ride their bike on the Big Branch Greenway by our house. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is Lindsay Rains.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Rains. When a city grows, it faces an ongoing responsibility to balance progress with protection. The Greenway discussion before us tonight reflects that challenge. We can all agree that trails and public access add value to the community, but how we build them and where matters also. In this case, properties along the streamside and Anderson Forest are governed by a recorded deed of dedication. That deed, filed decades ago to protect this particular stretch of land from development of any kind, including Greenway within this restricted area. It is a legally binding document that runs through the land and applies to all current and future property owners. Because of that deed, the city cannot simply move forward with the proposed streamside alignment. To do so would first need to remove and override those deed restrictions. The only mechanism available to accomplish this is through eminent domain, a legal process by which the government may require property rights for public use, with compensation to affect the owners. That process is not quick and it's not without cost. It involves formal appraisals, legal findings, public notices, and often proceedings in court. In other words, this now shifts from a neighborhood discussion to a legal one. It is important to note that the city does not have the legal authority to pursue this process if it chooses, but doing so would mean condemning property rights that homeowners have relied upon for decades. It would also draw out this process further. Eminent domain is not a shortcut, it's a last resort. It exists for projects of clear public benefit, but it should be exercised with care and transparency. Other feasible options have been identified. In this case, other alignments have been studied, discussed, and even included in public input materials, which means the city has alternatives available that would avoid condemnation altogether. This board has an opportunity to guide the project toward a better outcome, one that respects the law, protects the integrity of private property, and still advocates our shared vision for expanded Greenway system. If approved tonight, the advocacy for this segment alignment doesn't end. It begins with a long, costly legal process that we as private homeowners are prepared to pursue as long as necessary. Our commitment to this issue has been consistent and unwavering. We will continue to stand up for the protections that were put in place decades ago when we bought this property. We respect the work that this board has done so far, and we really appreciate the time you've given to hear from us. Our hope is simply that we move forward in a way that honors both Raleigh's vision for connectivity and the private property protection that have long defined this community.
All right, thank you. Next up is Elizabeth Scott.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Scott. I live in Anderson Forest and speak on behalf of our neighborhood tonight. The estimate for a segment 1B Greenway through Anderson Forest is out, and it's a whopping $4.73 million, Worse yet, this doesn't include engineering costs, geotech work, design surveys, or construction administration. And it also doesn't include the almost $300,000 that's been paid to Kimley Horn so far. That's over $5 million, ladies and gentlemen. That's $500,000 more than the parks bond allotted for the entire Big Branch Greenway Connector project, which was meant to fund the design and construction of over 3.5 miles of Greenway. Segment 1B is just over a half a mile long. Ms. Raines is right. Currently, the city does not have an easement to construct the Greenway trails through Anderson Forest. And in fact, the deed of dedication expressly prohibits Greenway trail construction through our properties. Yes, the city could sue 9 Anderson Forest homeowners and forcibly take our property through its eminent domain powers. But guess what? That's going to require litigation. And the cost for the city to bring 9 lawsuits is not included in the cost estimates either. Fairness is at issue here. If the city runs a greenway through our backyards, 9 families will lose their privacy. They will lose large portions of the use of their backyards. They will lose property values. Yet the city may still require us to pay tax on the land taken for the greenway, and we would be subject to liability potentially for any greenway user injured on our property. That's not fair. This project hinges on a multimodal bridge that's not fully funded and may never be. Without that bridge, the city risks spending over $5 million on a greenway to nowhere, a greenway that violates easement terms, environmental regulations, the city's Greenway Master Plan, and current design guidelines. If this connector is imperative, as some claim, there are far less costly routes that will not endanger Big Branch Creek or require extensive and expensive ongoing bridge maintenance or trail maintenance or future bridge replacements. Using common sense, these routes can be far less intrusive than they've been made to appear so far. With over 120 miles of existing greenway in the city of Raleigh, seizing private property for a budget-blowing half-mile stretch of greenway, potentially to nowhere, will cost millions of dollars, but makes no sense.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Taylor Stewart.
Good evening. When the city began its public engagement 16 months ago for Big Branch Greenway project, it presented the streamside segment 1B route in a way that misled the public into believing it would be a scenic greenway experience in a wooded setting where users could enjoy nature. The city claimed to have a greenway construction easement that it does not have. In Phase 2 survey, the city photoshopped an image showing a serene walk along the creek and implied this route was environmentally friendly because it would remove fewer trees. But the realities are very different. The proposed trail would run parallel to Big Branch Creek, just a few feet from the creek, almost entirely within the Zone 1 riparian buffer against all environmental regulations. The city plans to remove the few trees and vegetation on the stream bank left in the wake of a recent sewer replacement project in the name of stream bank stabilization. This will not only be unsightly, it's harmful. It undermines the creek's resilience, violates state and city environmental protections, and would leave the stream bank exposed and vulnerable for years until new trees and vegetation grow back. With massive development happening to our north and west, this area, one of Raleigh's most flood-prone, will see more frequent and intense flooding. Fast rising waters will pose safety risks for users and require costly ongoing maintenance, repairs, and trail closures. Because the trail would run so close to the creek, the city must install safety railings, and because it would run so close to homes, the city plans to install privacy fencing just a few feet from the path. Both will degrade the user experience, obscure views, and create a tunnel effect. Instead of a peaceful greenway, users will feel confined, walking on what looks and feels like a narrow sidewalk bordered by fencing and large sewer manholes. The city claims this route is safer for users, but that statement leaves out important facts. To access the trail, users must cross a dangerous stretch of Six Forks Road where the accident rate, according to the city's own traffic department, is 35% higher than any other comparable 5-lane road in North Carolina, as well as across a daycare entrance in Plantation Road before descending a long ramp into our backyards. These are facts. Raleigh's Greenway system is something to be proud of, yes, but moving forward with the Streamside Segment 1B route would be a serious mistake, one that harms Big Branch Creek, creates a poor and unsafe experience for users, and leaves Anderson Forest homeowners with permanent consequences. Please do not move forward with this route. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Matt Rains.
Good evening. My name is Matt Rains, and I live at 3245 Anderson Drive. Over the last 16 months, a lot of reasons for alignment options have been made as it pertains to Segment 1B of the Greenway project. They've been made by staff, they've been made by affected property owners, they've been made by the broader general public. That type of involvement in a community and a city project is encouraging to see. However, all of those reasons, all of those suggestions, all of the speculation, all of the subjectiveness is what got us here. What we need to focus on and what I advocate for you, the board, to do tonight is to think about where this goes from here after you make your recommendation, because that decision should be based in fact, not hyperbole or embellishment. The stream side that runs along the 9 properties in Anderson Forest is restricted by a deed of dedication, explicitly prohibiting the construction of a greenway in the manner and fashion proposed by staff. That is a fact. To pursue this stream side option, the city would have to initiate eminent domain and condemnation proceedings. That is a fact. We property owners will continue to advocate, but instead of standing up here before you for 3 minutes, that discussion will take place through legal proceedings with our attorneys, our homeowners' claims, and the city's legal team. That is a fact. Financially, the facts are just as clear. The streamside option carries more than $2 million in additional projected costs compared to other viable options. Those numbers come directly from Kimley Horn, the engineering firm that the city itself hired to conduct the work. And that brings us to another important question around these cost estimates. Why were they produced by Kimley Horn in August, yet never shared publicly by staff? Homeowners only obtained them through formal public records requests. Why were they not presented formally? Why were they not shared with this board? The fact that many of us homeowners saw this document before some of you did should give us all pause. It isn't speculation, it's just stepping back and asking, what else hasn't been shared? What facts are still missing? And is this a process that we want to model for future projects in the city? We all want a great greenway. The question is how we get there. The facts point to an alignment that avoids condemnation, addresses environmental and stormwater concerns, and costs less to build and maintain. That path invites collaboration instead of conflict. I urge you to advise against the recommended alignment and choose one that honors the deed and honors the facts, so we can spend our time and energy building a better project, not building a better case. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rayshawn King.
Good evening, board members. Hope you guys are doing well. My name is Rashawn King. I am the program manager of the Triangles Trails Initiative and a former board member for the City of Raleigh Parks and Greenway Advisory Board. I'm here today to talk briefly about the Big Branch Greenway Trail Connector. The Big Branch Greenway Trail Connector is a vital project that will impact not just one section of Raleigh, but the entire region. The importance of this trail has been expressed highly by citizens in Raleigh through community engagement. This greenway has been emphasized and embedded in the 2020 Walkable Midtown Plan and the Vision Zero Plan as well. The development of this greenway will bring more than 10,000 residents within a 10-mile walking radius closer to this trail. But also it will bring residents outside of Raleigh's jurisdiction to be able to enjoy this remarkable trail and the city's trail connectivity and network that's going on right now throughout the city. I advocate for this project because of the substantial connection it will provide for residents who will be able to utilize this trail for transportation, recreation, leisure, and health and wellness. But more so for the kids and for the parents that need this greenway for safe routes to schools and safe routes to playgrounds. I, Rashawn King, was born and raised here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've had the luxury to live within or visit majority of the districts that have greenways and trails within them. And I can truly say that almost every greenway that the city of Raleigh that has built, and every trail that they have built, has made a positive impact on people's lives. For me as a resident of Raleigh, a trail advocate and an activist, and a former member of this board, I am very applauded, let alone flabbergasted to see and hear so much conflict around this project that can bring so much positive and beneficial aspects to people's lives. Where did time go? How do we get to this point in regards to not making the right decision for a bond project? This project is big for Raleigh, for the community, and for the staff. This project is a vital project for the region, and the Big Branch Greenway will have the potential to connect other counties and other regions in this state. And for those who don't know, that's on this board, that's sitting in this room right now, we, North Carolina, are patented as the Great Trail State. We are ranked in the country as one of the top 5 states with great connectivity, and great trails, and great greenways. So say yes to Big Branch. Vote yes for Big Branch. I advocate for Big Branch Greenway. And I will close out with this remark. As Rashawn, I'm a cancer survivor. I battled leukemia at a young age of 17 years old. I was told I would never live to see the next day. I had 24 hours to live and had one of the worst cases that every hospital has ever encountered. But you know what saved my life? You know what I was able to get up and do? I was able to get out and connect with nature and be able to get out and get on the greenways and trails and walk and build my immune system back up to par. So I'm asking everybody on this board to do the right thing and vote yes for the Big Branch Greenway project.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Jared Harbor.
Good evening. My name is Jared. I've been a resident of Raleigh for 25 years. I've been an active member of the local cycling community. I'm also the executive director of Oaks and Spokes, which is a bike and walk-in infrastructure and policy advocacy organization. I am here to voice support for the Creekside alignment of the Big Branch Greenway and to proceed as which was presented in front of this board, as well as to the public multiple times over. I didn't really come here with a printout and prepared, so I'm just gonna riff a little bit, but with this like supercomputer I have in my pocket, I actually checked, I have, in the past 10 years, probably put in over 4,000 hours and 40,000 miles on our greenway systems. And so if there's a concern of safety, I can say with confidence, our greenways are almost shockingly so, like, very safe. If there's a concern about property values, there's a lot of data that shows that property values go up when, please. I guess decorum doesn't exist anymore, huh? Anyway, so I think I'll just use my time. That was really nice of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And just a reminder to the room, please respect the speakers that are on the dais. Everybody has a chance at public comment. Please respect the 3 minutes that folks have. Next up, we have Leslie DeHaven.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Leslie DeHaven, and I'm a resident of Crabtree Heights. Thank you for allowing me to speak again this evening about the Big Branch Greenway Connector project. I wanted to take a moment to thank the city staff who have worked hard on this project and answered my many, many questions promptly and thoroughly. I appreciate the effort they and their team have put into the project and the thoroughness with which they researched the various options for Segment 1B. Having attended the September Greenway Committee meeting, I know the staff put a lot of work into researching the safest route for Greenway users. I was glad to see the staff recognize the dangers either of the proposed options through Crabtree Heights, those being the Plantation Hines and Plantation Belvin options, posed to the safety of Greenway users. Both options would include using the steep hill of Plantation Road above Six Forks Road, and each option would require crossing multiple residential driveways and one commercial driveway. Each driveway crossing is a point of conflict between Greenway users and vehicles. My neighbors and I don't want to run the risk of hurting someone or something worse happening just to go to the store, take our kids to school, or to go to work. No matter the format of the greenway in our neighborhood, whether it's a greenway path or 2 sidewalks on either side of the road, these dangers exist. And there would be costly construction of retaining walls and regrading of many residential driveways for these options, and street parking would be limited if existing at all. I encourage you to review the research and information gathered by city staff on all available routes for Segment 1B of Big Branch Greenway Connector as you consider which option and approval tonight. This greenway is an important connector for recreational users and commuters alike, like the Oaks and Spokes speaker mentioned. Thank you again for your time today and for all of your work for the city that you do, and for your consideration of all our concerns around this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have George Jeter.
Hello, my name is George Jeter. I live at 3110 Plantation Road in Raleigh. I am speaking regarding the Big Branch Connector project. I also want to thank city staff and members of the group for all the time and research you have put into this proposal. I'm pretty sure most of you have toured in person all 3 options. Some of you I know have been there more than once. I also want to say those of us living on either side of the creek have been living with these proposals for months now. The stress of that is felt all over. No one's emotional health has been helped during this process, no matter which side you're on. But a full vetting of the facts has been important. Now it's time for you folks to make a decisive vote that sends a very strong, clear signal to council. There's really only one doable, safe, and scenic choice, and that is the streamside option. If you have walked through Crabtree Heights, then you know slicing through those driveways and clear cutting that mature growth from those front yards, that would be a disaster. Bikes and Buicks cannot occupy the same space at the exact same time. Funneling Greenway users who are running or biking or zipping along on e-machines into active driveways and across the street where visibility is severely limited through the entire neighborhood, as I'm sure you know, it's just a matter of time before accidents would happen. I truly believe that. Plus, the scenic value the neighborhood offers would be severely damaged in the process, given how much man-made straightening and bulwarking and taking the hills out to smooth the path would be needed. Numerous power poles and cable junction boxes would need to be pushed back 20 or more feet into front yards. Sometimes they'd be right against the house. If you've been there, you've seen what would happen. On top of that, more infill development is certainly coming to Crabtree Heights. We've already had some. We're going to have more. In fact, since most of you have toured, there's already been exploratory construction work at the one remaining vacant lot, which would be right at the head of the Hines Plantation route. I expect houses there or something else sometime soon. There's every reason to believe in the coming years, the remaining half-acre yards and 1950 homes will be replaced by 2 or more homes per lot. And when you do that, of course, each and every time the greenway would get blocked, it would get cut open, and then it would need to be re-engineered and redesigned because you'd have new houses, new lots, new driveways that are all reconfigured in different ways than what is there right now. There's no need for that chaos. There's no need to put people in danger. The streamside option will never be cut apart by driveways and traffic. It will remain scenic next to the creek. It's the only logical, safe, and scenic option. People will safely enjoy using it. Please vote for it tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Kurt Earhart.
Good evening. I'm a 35-year resident of Raleigh and an avid bicyclist, and I've used the Greenway as it's expanded and have enjoyed it. And I've been retired for the last 9 years and have traveled around the country with my bicycle and ridden on a lot of greenways in other places. And I believe that the Raleigh Greenway is one of the best in the nation. Its connectivity, its size is spectacular. The idea that the Big Branch development could allow thousands more people to safely access our wonderful Greenway system is very compelling. Now, I don't know about the various options, Creekside versus others, but I just feel like getting that thing done so that so many more people can access our wonderful recreational facility would be paramount. The other thing I've noticed in all my Greenway riding in Raleigh and elsewhere is that the people who use it come from all walks of life. You know, some of them have almost nothing, some of them are rather wealthy, but it is a very democratizing experience down there. I mean, everybody gets to use it, everybody is under God's sky and enjoying nature, and it doesn't cost them anything. So every time I cross one of the elaborate bridges in our system, I wonder at the will it took to build it, and I'm so grateful. So I ask you to get this done and give the Greenway experience safely accessed to thousands more people. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Athena Wallen.
Hi, everybody. My name is Athena Wallen. I do not live in the neighborhood that is being discussed about the Big Branch connector. However, I am a property owner who has property that backs up to a creek. And ooh, good golly, must it be great to have lawyers and money and There is an equity issue regarding decisions being made and the fact that we have 60% of our stormwater creeks in the state of severe erosion. The idea that this Greenway connector would be a huge asset of maintenance for city employees, for neighborhood resiliency, for environmental resiliency, for Sponge City ability. Please, please, homeowners, please acknowledge how amazing that is to have the city to be able to maintain that, to strategize and mitigate the flooding, all while the improvement of access and open air ability for all sorts of communities. The decisions being made here and the idea that homeowners can then bring lawsuits to stall and bring the city to a halt. You don't understand what that will do to neighborhoods that need it more than you do. You don't understand that the opportunity to connect longer segments of Stormwater Creek is the future that we need to take. And it is not a singular person's responsibility to care for those creeks. It is a connected, collaborative effort. And this Greenway connector is a signifier of that. It helps us as a city move in the direction that we need to. We evolve with the support of homeowners and changing minds. We evolve because we know we need to collaborate. We evolve because whatever you are concerned with in your home is not reflective of the rest of Raleigh that could benefit from the greater good of this. It is more than just this connector. It is a strategy. It is acceptance that these stormwater creeks are valuable ecosystems, wildlife habitat, natural corridors, all of these things that can be better managed with collaborative efforts. So I understand that change is scary, and I understand that things can seem like they're working against you. But there are so many other greater aspects to this discussion that need to be collaborated upon, and we cannot be restricted by such a few number of homeowners. So please collaborate. Please support the Greenway connector. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next we have Alex Brissett.
Good evening. I don't have anything prepared, so bear with me. Also, thank you to my wife. We're here for the second time on our wedding anniversary to advocate for bike lanes in Raleigh, so this is an important issue for us. Yeah, I don't know if I can say things any better than some of the other people have who are in favor of this project. What I think about is that, you know, I think this is the Parks Board, and obviously the Greenways are an incredibly valuable asset as parks, but their value as transportation connectivity is just as important. An issue that motivates my voting is, can we improve our transportation system? Can we give people access to alternative means of transportation? Can we get cars off the road by replacing cars that would be in a trip with, replacing trips that would be in a car with trips that would be on foot or on a bicycle or on any other means? And the best way that we can move in the right direction for that, building up our alternative transportation infrastructure is connectivity. We have bike lanes, we have greenways. They're very good the way they are now, but improving connectivity is going to geometrically improve people's ability to make trips on a bike. And this project is a huge part of that, and it will open up access to the rest of the network for a tremendous number of people. So for that reason, it's incredibly important that we get this done. I also want to mention, I was here on Tuesday night. There were people from both sides of this issue also making comments. I heard a comment that I liked from a woman who is an artist who does paintings of greenways. They're wonderful. She made a point about the House Creek branch, which was built in the past. It was before I lived here, but she related, and I can't back this up, but she said that there were people who lived along the proposed House Creek branch who were very opposed to it before it came in. And then once it was built, they came back and they said, can you build access from our house down to the greenway? We love having a greenway in our backyard once it was built. And I expect that will happen again. So you have a very difficult decision in front of you. I understand that. I appreciate that. Please let nothing stand in the way of getting the Big Branch Greenway project done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next we have Scott Tees.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Tees. I'm here to say thank you to this board for your forethought and stewardship in helping plan out the entire Raleigh Greenway system. I think when the Greenway got started, I don't think anyone could have possibly imagined how important it would be to our city as it's grown like it has. It's incredibly to be surrounded by the city, but with only a short walk or a bike ride to be surrounded by nature. There's really no price tag you can put on that. My wife, Kim, and I are here tonight. We live in Crabtree Heights and have been following the decision process for where the Big Branch Connector was going to be placed. And I must say, I've been really pleased with the current plan, which they're calling the Big Branch Connector on the stream side option. Very pleased with that. But more so, we're really pleased with the way that this council has handled it. We had several members of this council, of the city council, come out and actually walk through our neighborhood to understand our concerns, and I really appreciate it. Most of our concerns involve the safety of the users. Instead of having to cross a lot of driveways and hilly roads that have a lot of blind spots, the current plan puts it next to a stream. That stream between Crabtree Heights and Anderson Forest is quite lovely. It's quite pretty. Greenway there would be right in line with the trail that it's going to connect to on Crabtree Creek. I fought RTP traffic and State Fair and Billie Eilish tonight to get here by 6 o'clock. The reason I did that was I wanted to just say thank you to all of you for the way this process worked. I hope it closes very quickly. Through this process, my wife and I love the Greenway, but I never really had an appreciation for how much effort it took to pull this together, both with government help and with volunteerism. So I'm a proud citizen of Raleigh for a very long time, since 1986. If there's anything I can do to help, please call on me and my wife. And thanks. I hope we can get to closure on the Creekside option very quickly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Brenda Williamson.
Good evening. As you say, my name is Brenda Williamson, and I'm a proud resident of Southeast Raleigh, I've lived in Southeast Raleigh for 53 years of my 55 years in the city. And I'm not going to speak about the walkway. I came to this body years ago, back in the early 70s, and talked about the need for additional tennis courts at Biltmore Hills Community Center. And when I did that, we got those 4 tennis courts, which makes 8. One of the things that I'm here about is that we had to go across town to Millbrook before we got the extra courts. But those extra courts now need some additional work. They've been resurfaced a number of times. But my primary reason here is to talk to you about the Southeast Raleigh Tennis Center. It was originally supposed to be in Barnwell, and it was halted due to some site issues. And as I understand it, it was $1.8 million, then was earmarked for another site. In late 2017, there was a community design meeting, several community design meetings, and priority given for options for the new location for the tennis court. And Biltmore Hills was chosen as that. And some of the preferences that were ranked with citizens coming was a new courts, tennis center, a new parking lot, and because there were only 8 courts. In 2022, the approval of the bond funding to a new round of meetings about the Biltmore Hills project. And what we're concerned about is what happened with the tennis court funding from Barnwell Road. Have the funds been spent or allocated elsewhere? If so, where and what? Because we still have 8 courts, and 4 of those courts have been resurfaced several times, and they need to be made brand new. Okay. We at Biltmore Hills, we would like to become the tennis destination for Southeast Raleigh. If that happens, there is additional revenue that would come in. Prior to this time when we were trying to do it before, some members had received some external funding specifically to address the funding gaps. And what I would like to say here is, I know I'm ending, but we need for you all to really look at what's going to be put over in Biltmore Hills. And we want a class act center just like Millbrook and any other place. And right now it's not happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. And I can say that there are 4 additional courts that are going to be built at Biltmore Hills. And I think the goal is so that we can have world-class location there so that we can have tournaments hosted at Biltmore Hills. But I can't speak to the Barnwell Road funding. Stephen, do you?
Yeah, that 1.8 is being allocated to Biltmore.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Actually 8.
Oh, it's 8
actually 8.
additional, so there will be 16 at Biltmore. Yep.
We're resurfacing, putting new lighting in.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Next public comment, Sig Hutchinson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Park Board members. I am Sig Hutchinson, former Wake County Commissioner. It's great to be with you tonight to speak in favor of the Big Branch Greenway and choosing the left stream side alternative as preferred by staff. We all know in Raleigh that we love our Greenway system, as truly it is our brand. But as expansive as it is, the real secret sauce to the Greenway system is this direct connectivity to the rest of the system, which makes the stream side alternative the only alternative that should be selected by this board. Not only is the stream side alternative the most beautiful, but it's also the most direct and safest, as opposed to the sidewalks or the Six Forks corridor. Now, I am a Greenway advocate, and I have been doing this work for over 30 years. And I can't tell you the number of times that someone came up to me to say, Sig, I fought you tooth and nail against this Greenway behind my house. But once we went in, we realized it was the best amenity in the entire neighborhood. Once this carpet of green came in behind our house, we could get out and stroll or walk or ride a bike or walk the dog or go to destinations without a car. I often say these folks are really for it, they just don't know it yet. These neighbors have said 3 specific things about this corridor: flooding, the cost to build, and the corridor ownership. First, the flooding. Greenways flood. They're designed to flood. But with $1 million that the city is putting towards this, it will help stream bank stabilization and restoration, potentially reducing the flooding. The second is the cost. 73% of the voters voted for a bond that supported the cost of this Greenway. But in addition to that, of the $4.5 million, the city has also found another $1.5 million from stormwater funds to cover the additional cost. Finally, and most importantly, consider the source. The Raleigh Parks Department, under the leadership of Stephen Bentley, has just recently received the CAFTA Award, an award only given to 2% of the park system within the entire country. What it says is our folks know what they are doing. They've been educated, they've been trained, and they've experienced. And if they say this is the best corridor, take it to the bank. In summary, trust your staff, protect your citizens, and improve our brand by approving the Streamside Corridor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of public comment. Thank you all. We appreciate the attendance. We'd love for you guys to stick around for the rest of this meeting. There is going to be more Big Branch content. Next item on our agenda is the Neighborhood and Community Connections Program Schematic Design Approval. This was presented at the Greenway Committee on Monday, and now it's being presented here today.
Thank you, members of the board. Good evening. I always like following SIG. Rallies everybody up. My name is Kimberly Saran. I am a project manager, and I'm here with Graham Bruns with McAdams Engineering. They are our design consultant for this project. We're going to talk about schematic design tonight. I'm going to go through some project background and the 4 site locations. In general, the 4 sites provide access to the Neuse River Trail, to Barwell Road Park, to Sanderford Road Park, and then a connection to the Walnut Creek Trail. I'll talk about community engagement, and then Graham's going to go through the schematic design, and then I'll bring it back for next steps and budget schedule. So the Neighborhood and Community Connections Program identifies, prioritizes, and builds new trail connections to parks and greenways. The scope of the project is to build trail connections at 4 sites around Raleigh. Part of the scope, there will be easement acquisition. We will use an asphalt trail, which will be the standard width of the 10 to 12 feet. There'll be a few boardwalk structures. There'll be some at-grade road crossings, and our wayfinding will be the new adopted wayfinding program. This is a 2022 Parks Bond project with a design and construction budget of $4 million. So going through the 4 sites at the high level, on the east side of Raleigh, in the Village Lakes community, that site connects into the existing Neuse River Trail. A little farther south of that, also in proximity to the Neuse River Trail, the Chastain community, which will have a direct access to Barwell Road Park. In southeast Raleigh, along Creech Road, there'll be a connection that will connect into Sanderford Road Park, also connecting the Southeast Raleigh High School. On the western part of Raleigh, just west of NC State University, in between Gorman Street and Avon Ferry Road, there'll be a connection directly to Walnut Creek Greenway Trail. Drilling down a little bit to each site, Site 1, the Village Lakes community, direct connection to Neuse River Trail. Within a 10-minute walk, there's about 240 households that will be able to access the trail connection. The Site 2, Chastain community, direct connection to Barwell Road Park, about 523 households within a 10-minute walk. Site 3 at Sanderford Road Park and Creech Road, again, a direct connection with Southeast Raleigh High School, and it's about 150 households within that 10-minute walk. And the Bushy Branch Trail connection to Walnut Creek, again, between, just west of NC State, between Avon Ferry and Gorman, and there's about 8 apartment complexes that will benefit within that 10-minute walk to the existing Walnut Creek Trail. So our community engagement, the public participation goal level was consult, where the public's informed of and can provide feedback on the analysis and alternatives. We held 1 open house and 1 public meeting. There was about 1,200 postcards that went out to property owners, 21 yard signs in the neighborhoods, vicinities of all 4 sites. The flyers and all the digital publications also were provided in Spanish language as well as English. So we held 2 community meetings, or 2 public meetings. The first open house was a weekday afternoon at the Walnut Creek Wetland Center, where all 4 sites were provided for feedback. There was about 20 people that attended that public open house. And then on September 6th was a Saturday morning. The City of Raleigh staff, as well as McAdams, were present at the Village Lakes Annual Homeowners Association meeting. There was about 65 people in attendance at that meeting. The feedback that we received were questions regarding schedule and timing of construction, both when it's going to start and how long it will last. Concerns about the trails that are existing now. There are some gravel, natural surface trails that exist now, and concerns about low areas and flooding, especially around the Neuse River, and how these projects will improve that drainage. And then we had a few questions about physical safety, both since there is natural trails there now, how an asphalt trail with slope will help improve physical safety using the trails if you're using a bicycle, or if you have a child that's learning how to ride a bike, how that width of the trail will help improve that slope, et cetera. And then also some physical safety. There was a few residents, I think, that were a little confused or concerned that the trail was actually going to be on their property. And then once seeing the maps and understanding that the trails will go through existing City of Raleigh easement, some of that physical safety, some of those physical safety concerns were alleviated. And now I will turn it over to Graham to talk about the specifics of the schematic design.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good evening. My name is Graham, and again, I'm with Mick Adams. The design that we are going with for, I think, all 4 of these trails are standard width asphalt trails. This is a city standard, and the graphic here is kind of what shows that the 10 to 14 feet, we're doing 10 to 12 feet for most of these because they are smaller connectors to neighborhoods. And we are going to try and build the gravel shoulders, again, for the runners that need a little bit more cushion than the asphalt. We are doing wayfinding and signage as well as the regulatory signs, so the stop signs at roadway crossings. And we are doing the at-grade crossings of roadways, looking at additional safety features. And then our tree buffer zone, we're trying to save as many trees as possible. I think we heard that from Greenway's committee the other night. And we are looking at narrowing our limits of disturbance as best as possible and only disturbing what is necessary and trying to save as many trees as possible. So we're going to dive into the alignments for each one of these. This is the first one, the Centipede Trail, and this is the one that connects out to the Neuse River Trail itself. There's a informal trail existing on the end of the cul-de-sac here that the HOA owns that we'll be formalizing with pavement and making as accessible as possible down to the Neuse River. There is a small tributary that we've got to cross. That's the blue line there. And then the red are wetlands that have been flagged. So these are 2 areas that we're looking at a boardwalk. And then the boardwalks that the city is using these days have the concrete decking. We're moving away from the timber decking and the timber planking that gets slick in the wintertime and with leaves. So that'll be like a floating sidewalk. Site number 2. This one is connecting to Marsh Lane Way and Barwell Road Park. So there's existing natural surface trails within the park itself. And then this connects, again, all those residents in the community there, the Chastain community with the park without having to go stand on the sewer line and kind of cut through the woods. So this will formalize that in addition to hopefully providing a little bit of stream bank stabilization along the creek. Site number 3, this one is a very interesting connection between Southeast Raleigh High and Sanderford Road Park. There's a community center that a lot of high school students are currently crossing the road and going down through the parking lot at the church there, crossing a sewer line to get across the creek and up into the park. So we're going to try to give them a little bit safer route that's paved that kind of steers around the church so that there's not conflicts there. And then also looking at a safer crossing of Creech Road. So what we're showing here is a mid-block crossing before the driveway of the church so that we don't have to come down and regrade their parking lot and their driveway. And that is up in the air between a pedestrian hybrid beacon or the rectangular rapid flashing push button sign. So current recommendation is leaning towards the rectangular rapid flashing per our warrants, but we have future meetings that we're going to have with transportation to kind of talk through that and also talk with DOT. And then finally, our Bushy Branch connection. This is the one between Avon Ferry and Gorman Street. Like Kimberly said, there are apartment buildings scattered throughout. You can see it from the aerial here that all of this is apartment buildings. So the amount of people served by this connecting into Walnut Creek is going to be a fairly large number. There are some challenges crossing Avon Ferry that we're going to work through with transportation. There's a new hybrid pedestrian beacon that just got installed just to the right there that will be connecting to This will stay on the east side of the creek all the way up to Gorman and connect to the sidewalk there along Gorman Street just before the Kaplan Drive intersection. There are a couple tributaries that will be crossing as part of this project as well. And again, those will be with the boardwalks to minimize impacts to any streams. And we'll be working with some of the apartment complexes through here to provide access with their facilities. So I'll turn it back over to Kimberly.
All right, thank you. So now to talk about schedule and next steps. So through the spring of next year, McAdams will be finishing up the design and permitting the project. We expect construction to start in summer of next year, summer of 26, and last about a year. So between fall of 26 and fall of 27 is when the Greenway connectors will be constructed, estimated construction time. We are scheduled to go to council for their review on November 4th. And does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Kimberly or Graham from the board? Linda?
The trail segment that's proposed for to go to Gorman Street goes through existing parking lots, is that correct? You'll have to negotiate with the apartment buildings?
Correct. So this area, so we're in easement except for maybe around
around here.
this, that area there.
And as the...
Excuse me, could you use this, because I can't hear.
Oh, you, I thought I was.
Thank you.
Can you hear it now?
That's much better.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's hard talking behind me. When you build the Greenway through the parking lots, the existing parking lots, will you remove the asphalt and plant trees or provide some other sort of visual or safety screen to designate the Greenway, or will it be left open to minimize impact on the parking lot?
That is a great question. So the reason that the trail goes through here is that blue line is the creek line.
Right.
There is a steep slope. We can't get it any closer to the actual creek. We're still within the corridor, but we can't get it any closer. So on the other side, on the east side of the trail, which is what you're asking about, we haven't determined the width of the easement yet, but within that easement, if there's any opportunity to provide any kind of buffer or visual screening, we will certainly consider that. The double yellow lines are sewer easement. We obviously have to adhere to their regulations of not planting any vegetation within that sewer easement. So there'll be, as we drill down to more specific design, that'll be addressed.
Okay, I understand the constraints. So just any chance to break up asphalt without too much inconvenience to homeowners and provide shade would be appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Doug?
On the, I better, sorry about that, Linda. Planting on the sewer right-of-ways, does that include vines? Anyway, that's not my main question. We'll talk about that later, but I agree strongly with where Linda is heading, that this is one amazing job of Greenway locating. It had every problem in the world, and the design team really came through. We have a very functional pathway along that route. The whole route offers some tremendous opportunities. There are places at the other end that are as beautiful as you'll find anywhere on the Greenway. The part you outlined back there is some of the worst places you'll ever find on the Greenway. So it's going to be a big challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And I was out there with a fellow who's a stormwater professional, and he was the one that pointed out to me just how amazing this job is. And it's a fantastic platform to seize these opportunities, both the ones where it's pretty nice and the challenges of this place here. Vines may be part of the screening thing. There's lots of reasons to explore, but it's not just the natural beauty options. There are possibly other options centrally focused around tree planting and the city's tree planting that they're considering now. So I had sent a memo around suggesting that we have a conditional approval, but it wouldn't be necessary if we'll do a couple of other things, which are, number one, give us a little idea of what room is left for planting on that route, and give us I mean, it's going to be very little, but confirm that. And then there's been discussion in our group about adjacent property and how to do them. Now, we don't know where the adjacent property wants to go with on this thing, but they're, like many apartment complexes, they're doing their bit for landscaping around it. You can go there now and see the mulch is there. So I think we may be selling short the willingness of adjacent property owners to be stewards of this and to come on board with it. Long story short, because my 3-minute section is almost up, even though I don't have to look at the clock, I think we want to look at this as the opportunity to develop a different, deeper kind of community engagement where, and you've done all the regular things of telling them what they're going and find out where we're going and share all that, but also to see where they may want to go eventually with it and what they'd like to look at as they see the Greenway and the kind of experience they'd like people on the Greenway to have. All this is justified 1,000 ways, but I think we heard one of the main things is connectivity. And we've gotten the route to people. Now we want to make sure they want to use it. And if they go along the area like this parking lot, they're going to say, do you really care about this? Is this the best we can do? So we've got to do something we show that cares. And I think the kind of preliminary look, it won't be deep dive into it because it's not our property, but we can say what some of the possibilities are and make this a very, very attractive part of the Greenway.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The easement width hasn't been determined yet. So once I said, like I said before, with the deeper dive into the design and the easement width is determined, it would be better to determine what would be an appropriate area to plant. To answer your vine question, I paused because my thought immediately went to vines need something to grow on. So what would they grow on or up? The definition for planting within a sewer easement is herbaceous material with a root system. Mm-hmm. Vines have a root system, so that would have to be drilled down to a little bit more specifically as to a yes or no to vines.
That's be good. That's a good to know thing. If you go out there and look at their basketball court, they already have some pretty good vine growth on it, and it may give you an illustration of what's possible along there. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is, and I'm pointing to Dix Park, and Stephen and Giovanni aren't surprised to hear that because I'm considered the resident maniac about Dix Park borders and park borders in general, and that's what we're talking about here. And in its master plan, and I think there's evidence in our master plan for the Greenway generally, we're concerned with the borders and we want to make them good. But the Dix Park master plan also suggests that we'll be negotiating. It says we need to coordinate with the adjacent property owners, chiefly the Department of Agriculture and North Carolina State University, to see that that view from the park isn't transformed by whatever they may do. And so I'm really thinking not just where we operate, but how we can negotiate to operate with the adjacent property owners. And that's really as much a discussion for our community engagement department, which has been reorganized, and there's a huge opportunity there to see if they're interested in telling us who are at the front line of making these greenways work, how we can engage the adjacent community to support what we're doing at the moment, and maybe, and I think it'll be true, become stewards of their parts of the Greenway.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion either to approve all 4 of these as a slate, or if somebody wants to make a motion to approve each of the individual projects, I'll entertain that as well. Any motions, Doug?
I won't say condition because I don't want anything to
Speak in the
slow us
mic.
down.
Doug, will you speak in your mic?
I'm the worst. What's a better word, Chris, than condition? Understanding that we're going
Suggestion?
to pursue these 2 things in particular. Our group and staff look at our master plan process, our schematic design process, and our implementation processes, and see where we can plug in this opportunity to deal with adjacent property owners.
Kate?
How about if we take a vote on the first 3, and then we, on the last one,
Sure.
we just add our questions that we would like some answers to? Is that?
Yeah, I think that would work. Kate, do you want to make that motion to approve the first 3?
So, yeah, so I make a motion that we approve the first 3 designs.
All right, is there a second? Second. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, the first 3 pass. Now regarding the 4th project, I'll take a motion, however either of you guys want to phrase it.
Do you want me to take a stab at that, too? How about that we ask for, approve it in concept, but ask for additional information or feedback about how to, what can be done to provide a wider buffer on the creek if possible, plus working with the adjacent landowner? Something like that. That was not elegantly said, sorry.
And I think that would be across the board, not just in the trouble spot, but in the places that are quite nice, because we can get a lot more energy there if we're working with the adjacent property owners, even in the best parts. And there are some really super parts along this project, Greenway. The other thing I'd like to add to that, though, and we had this with Neuse River when I brought up the question of what are we doing to ensure the other side of the river looks pretty good, and we said, well, it looks pretty good, maybe it'll stay that way. In the particular case on the Neuse River, they're exactly right. The houses are far from the thing. There's plenty of room. It's one of the great, it is now one of the great parts of the Greenway. But there are other areas that are not quite like that. And we need to think about both sides of the creek, because the creek is our waterfront. It's our water feature. We don't have a lake. Even we have some ponds, we have some lakes, but we don't have shorelines of traditional. If you'll bring up that map, the last one, I'll show you where the problem lies. If you look at the route of the Greenway, it's all parking lots on the right-hand side of the map. But the left-hand side of the map, as was pointed out to me when this was presented at the earlier meeting, gives a little bit of a different idea, that it seems fairly vegetative, and that's not the case. It's there's one of those big trash dumpsters perched at the edge of the sidewalk and beyond the sidewalk, and it looks like it's the setting was staged because there's an oil can right next to the dumpster. If tipped over and had any oil in it, would be more toxic mess in there. But that side probably should be considered simply because it's the other side of the river, a creek. And this question of other side of the creek is important both at Big Branch, because if they had to go on the other side of the creek in the parking lot of the commercial, not a residential townhouses, but office townhouses, those trees would be lost, and they would have one disappointing greenway. So we do need, wherever it may wind up, so we do need to have attention to both sides of the creek where you can see across them. Yes, I think it's high time.
Yeah, so I think the intention obviously is, obviously with these first three, we're sending these with a recommendation that council approve them. I think the intention here is not to prevent this fourth one from being considered by council. So what I would suggest is that the motion be that we approve the fourth one with the comment to council that the board feels that particular attention needs to be given to the riparian border, I think, of the trail cutting through that stretch.
I'll second that one.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. All four of these have been approved with, obviously, the comment that if you guys need the exact wording, I'll refer you to Kate. Okay. Next up is the South Park Heritage Trail schematic design.
It's a very trail-heavy agenda tonight. My name is Lauren Reed. I am a capital project supervisor with Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources. I am presenting the South Park Heritage Trail schematic design tonight. Here is our quick agenda: project overview, community engagement summary, schematic design review, and we'll talk about the estimated implementation schedule, and we can have some questions. Oops. So our project scope is the creation of a heritage trail through the historic South Park neighborhood. Our budget is $4.5 million. $3 million of that comes from the 2022 Parks Bond referendum. $1.5 million is from a federal grant, and we also have $120,000 allocated for public art. Our design consultant is Design Workshop, and our community engagement level per the public participation playbook is Collaborate. So we had concept design, which you all saw last year, and our community engagement for that was done in conjunction with the Chavis Aquatic Center and the Top Green renovations. Then those were already in schematic design and were approved. So this year we are doing schematic design. We had community engagement for South Park Heritage Trail in September and October of this year. A little project background. This was originally a community-initiated project. SPRNA, or the South Park East Raleigh Neighborhood Association, Ms. Lynette Williams, community members, and other stakeholders worked with the North Carolina State University College of Design to produce the South Park Heritage Report in 2014. Their main focus of that report was protecting the history, creating new economic opportunities, and enhancing the visual character of the built environment. And that report was the basis for the South Park Heritage Trail. So what is a heritage trail? A heritage trail is a collection of features within the streetscape and other public spaces, which may include interpretive elements, art, and signage that tell the area's history from the perspective of its residents. Our goals with this trail are to celebrate the culture, history, and legacy of this special South Park neighborhood, and through that strengthen community relationships and access to resources through enhanced mobility, connectivity, and improved accessibility and safety for all users. And with that, we will hopefully promote healthy living with exercise and community education. This is our South Park Heritage Trail route. There are some stars and labels on here. These are landmarks that you might be familiar with, and they're just meant to orient you to the location on the map. So you can note that our largest star is the John P. Top Green African American Cultural Park, and that is also its own 2022 Parks Bond project. It is going to be undergoing extensive renovation and an addition, but it is also going to serve as our trailhead for the South Park Heritage Trail. So if we were at Top Green and we traveled west up Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, we could drop down a loop down Person Street towards the former Carolina Trailways Terminal, and then go back up Blunt Street. At that point, we could take the Fayetteville Street spur over towards Mount Hope Cemetery, or travel north past Shaw University up towards the Pope House, and then further north to the Hargett Street location of the former Black Main Street. If you went east on Hargett Street, we would get to the City Cemetery, John Winters Park, going south down Chavis Way, where we would pass the former Carolinian newspaper site, and then down into the west side of the John Chavis Memorial Park, and then back up to Top Green. So we have along this route a variety of signage and wayfinding. Our first type of sign is a decision point or directional sign. We will have about 17 of those throughout the route, and a few of those will have additional panels on them that will provide contextual information of that location. Our second type of panel is a perforated panel. These I believe we have about 6 of those, and these are going to allow a flexibility for different types of text or images to be used at each particular location. Another type of sign that we have is the branded pole banner, and these are actually going to be metal banners, and they're going to be located in our more urban parts of the trail. Those are going to be located about 10 to 12 feet above ground, so to avoid the kind of visual competition that you can have in the pedestrian height of a sidewalk. Our fourth type of sign is going to be the informational pedestal, and these can be used on their own or in conjunction with other elements. So here we have several renderings of the signs overlaid in actual streets. The pink, by the way, is just to match my outfit today. It is not indicative of the final color for the signs. We are too early in the process for that, so the final colors will come down the road. We also have interpretive elements along the way, many different kinds. Here are some examples. We have storytelling benches, which will have etchings of images or text to help build context in the area. We are looking at a natural stone bench along Chavis Way. My personal favorite is the viewfinder, which will have a plexiglass, a piece of plexiglass that's going to be etched, and you'll be able to look through it and see what an area looked like in the past. We'll have some decorative pedestrian railing over in the Chavis Park area. And then we'll also have metal medallions inlaid in the sidewalk. These are going to be about 2 feet in diameter and have different pieces of information etched into those. Here we have those also, pink to match my outfit, but these are an example of how these could look. I will point out here, you see some pink trees, and I will take this opportunity to note that we are adding some natural elements along this route. Right now, it looks like we have about 17 canopy trees in addition, or adding along the route, and another 10 decorative or more smaller, more decorative trees. And then we will have meadow planting, and we're looking into other garden opportunities. Our public artist is Stacy Utley, and he is proposing storytelling beacons. There'll be 3 to 4 locations along the South Park Heritage Trail, and he is using figures as his beacons to tell a story. And these silhouettes are going to be filled with images from the South Park community using family photos and school yearbooks and artifacts from our city archives. So this is a rendering of what these, of the beacon. This particular one, I believe, is the one he is suggesting near the Carolina Trailways Terminal. Estimated schedule. So we are just finishing up schematic design. Design development would start this fall and run through next spring. This fall, we would also start our National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, environmental assessment preparation, and that would start in the fall and could potentially run into 2027. Our construction documents and permitting would happen through the summer of 2027. We would bid and route contracts during the summer into the fall and start construction in fall of 2027. And that would run through the spring of 2029. There's some significant schedule considerations in this. We have federal, state, and city of Raleigh permitting to, I'm not going to say contend with, but to make our way through. And we also have over 3 miles of project. I believe the specific number is 3.36 miles of linear project. And most of this work is in the right-of-way, which means we are going to have to coordinate with multiple entities, NCDOT, Duke for 2 of those. And we're also planning to be very conscious of the residential property coordination to have the construction impact the least that it can be. And so we recommend the approval of the schematic design for the South Park Heritage Trail and its recommendation to City Council.
All right.
you have any
Thank you, Lauren.
questions?
Any questions for Lauren?
Question.
Kara?
Lauren.
Yes.
The plantings that we're doing, are these going to be native to North Carolina?
We actually, as a city, have been focusing on native plantings, and so these will be meadow plantings, and we will coordinate with our city horticulturist and the designers to make sure that we have the best mix of plants for that, yes.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Stephen?
Sorry. Thank you. This is really wonderful. I was just wondering, and I know it's very early on in the design phase, but with the signage, is there any way to like integrate, like I guess a QR code or an app?
We are looking into that because there is a database that our friends in planning and development have been building that we may be able to incorporate access to in our signage, yes.
I think definitely like having Spanish and other languages available in that way, as well as like ASL, as well as maybe even like the imagery, being able to have even more photos, I guess, at each point and to kind of see in the past and the future. I think that's awesome with the whole project.
Thank you for the idea of the translation. I don't recall if we had talked about that before, so that's a great idea. Thank you.
Great idea. Other questions? Ian?
Yeah, thank you. So 2 questions that might be better to ask at the same time. Since this is sort of the intersection of recreation and cultural resources, are there plans to do guided tours? And then also, will Top Green or one of the other sites host a fleet of rental, like e-bikes or e-scooters or other mobility assists? Because 3 miles is a long way for a lot of people to go, on a history tour.
So the 3 miles does include the spur, so it's not, you can do some or part of it. The e-bikes, there are currently e-bikes located at Chavis Park, but we can look into coordinating with our transportation partners and see if we can get some e-bikes closer to Top Green to be able to base from there, because I think that would be nice. We do cross a lot of, I'm not sure if e-bikes would in particular be the best option because we cross a lot of driveways with the sidewalks.
And we will have a full-time staff member associated with this trail in John P. Top Green. So tours will be included.
All right. Bob?
Yeah, I apologize if I missed it, but you're accommodating the visually impaired as part of your directions and signs, I hope. Is this being included? For people who have visual impairment,
Yes.
How are you accommodating them?
That's a good question.
I'll take that question. Thank you.
Well, we'll make a note that to make sure universal design is a part of the future.
It's very
programmatic.
important, and it's a significant part of our community, and as liaison to the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission, is certainly something I should ask. Thank you. I look forward to an answer.
Absolutely. I know we had worked on it with the with all our crossings and everything, but I do not know what to do with the signs.
All right. Stephen, did you have a comment on that?
I mean, I guess something with like an app maybe could possibly like have the audio.
Yeah,
I
we
know,
could geo-fence it, and when they come up, it automatically, it's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Carrie?
You guys have good suggestions today.
paying attention to where the bus stops are going, it makes me think of when you talked about the seats, the stones that you have. It's getting kind of caught. Most of our bus stops actually don't have covers. Is there any thought towards this 3-mile loop to have at least some of them have some shade opportunity based upon where the sun is coming from at the time? It may seem like a small thing, but I think we haven't done as good a job as we could with our bus stops, and so perhaps that could set the tone.
So we are looking to do some decorative wraps on some of the bus stops, but adding some shade we can look into that, yes.
I have a vote for water fountains.
I will see what I can do.
All right. Doug?
Another note for Stephen and you to work on. I don't know if, can you bring up the map again? I'll point where I'm talking about. But the walk goes towards Worth and Cape Avenue.
Yes, it does go down Worth and Cape.
Yeah, which overlooks sort of the counterpart of the pastoral escape pastoral escape's what it's called at Dix Park. There's a nice little meadow there along Rocky Branch, and there's some trees planted on Cape, and probably more could be done, but I don't think your route goes all the way down to Cape. I think it turns at Worth.
We actually go down Worth and Cape.
Oh, it does go on Cape. Okay.
We do.
So there's some coordination there. And then north of that, as you go towards Chavis Way, which is a really wonderful promenade, LA, the connection there at that corner of, what is it? At the intersection at the bottom of Chavis Way, it needs a little coordination there, and I'm not sure it always gets what it needs. So I point that out on the list. And finally, the coordination with abutting property owners, adjacent property owners, and the little wiggle-waggle stretch that you have on there from Chase and Worth is really one of the nicest parts of the Little Rock Creek Greenway for canopy and adjacent property. But the properties that face the street, anyway, the Worth goes up to what street? Person? No.
East.
Yeah.
East?
Those properties have real long backyards, and they've already put in the materials for auxiliary dwelling units. Mm-hmm. And so the tree canopy on that side of the Greenway is in some question. So this would be another one to look at what we're dreaming up for Avon Ferry Road, Bushy Creek, and try to apply some of those principles in this situation. And a note for you to discuss that, and I'd be interested in finding out where you want to go with it. But Little Rock Creek
is lovely down
really
there.
Part of Chavis Park down to the Wetland Center, and it makes Chavis Park one of our more exceptional parks in terms of what it'll have in it, and you can look it up.
Thank you. I do want to point out, and I didn't mention it before, but you brought up the crossing there, and we are enhancing all of the crosswalks throughout this and actually either installing or improving 42 different curb ramps. So we're improving the accessibility and safety of the crossing at all the locations in this.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Lauren.
Sure.
At this time, is there a motion on the floor? Anyone want to make a motion? All right. Ian makes a motion to suggest approval of this to council. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next, we have a presentation by Assistant Director Adam Foreman on the Big Branch Connector.
Motion
Stephen, would you like to make a motion?
to recess between this, or should I wait till later?
Yeah. Is there a second for the motion? Second. All right. All those in favor? Aye. All right. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Please try to keep it sharp to 5. Sorry, Adam. Thank you.
I was like, I knew this was going to be. Yeah, I was like, I think this would be the.
just expressing my appreciation for all of you. Obviously, there are controversial and challenging projects every couple years. I know a lot of you have had to field phone calls and emails and go to a lot of tours and a lot of meetings. So just expressing my appreciation for your thoughtfulness, your passion, your open-mindedness as we go through this project. So it's greatly appreciated. And to jump into this, for the agenda, we'll go through the project background, public engagement overview, talk about the alignment recommendation. We'll talk about several alternative alignments that we evaluated and our standards for evaluating them, our steps on how to move forward, and some lingering considerations, and then also, of course, discussion with the table. To go over, an overview of the project, and many of you guys have seen this several times before, but this is, funded by the 2022 Parks Bond. It was passed 73% of the vote. Obviously, a very popular project, and the City of Raleigh supports its park system, which we're very grateful for. The project is funded at $5.76 million, so that's $4.56 from the bond, and then an additional $1.2 from stormwater, specifically for stream bank restoration. And this is the only new trail construction project in the Parks Bond, which makes it so important. And it also raises the question is why is this the only one and why is this number one? And it's because it's been a priority for 50 years. From the original Greenway Master Plan to the most recent, the Midtown St. Albans Plan, Vision Zero Plan, this has been a priority for a very long time. And specifically in the last Greenway Master Plan, as we've talked about before, we evaluated 98 potential corridors. This ranked number one based on density, greenway access. This is the most important greenway project that we can build over the next 50 years, and this is why we're prioritizing it number one. And why? So to go farther into this, and this is important. There's connecting to Kiwanis Park, to Eastgate Park, to Cedar Hills Park, to Crabtree Creek Trail. This is a really important connector. And when we do the system plan, when we do the Greenway Master Plan, one of the things we hear most often about what we want from greenways and what we want from our park system is that greenway connection. It builds a system so that our parks are connected, so that people can get there in a sustainable way. So connecting those greenways to our parks really builds a coherent system, and that's why we're proud to move forward with this project. It also connects over 440, and this is 7,000 residents within just a 10-minute walk of this trail. And as we know, a lot more coming. This is a very fast-growing area. About 3,000 multi-family units are in the pipeline right now. Permitting, many more are going to come, a lot of big projects. We often talk about what our aspirations for the future when it comes to the Greenway. When we talk about the Beltline and other greenways around the country, this is a project that starts to get us to not only the leisure and recreation, which is so critical for the Greenway and the sustainability, but also start to think about active transportation. So transporting to school, to work, to services, to activities, to parks. This Greenway is going to connect a lot of dense mixed-use neighborhoods, and it's going to make transportation more sustainable around our city, which we're excited about. And then to go into this project specifically and where that $5.5 million that this is budgeted towards, where that will go, it's important to just make the distinction that 1A and 1B, that money goes toward design and construction, and then segment 4, design and construction. The other segments for that full 3.5-mile trail will be funded in various other ways. So public-private partnership through exchange for segment 3. Segment 2 is that multimodal bridge over 40. Segment 5 is a Raleigh DOT project through Quail Hollow Drive. And then segment 6, we're doing a feasibility study right now, but there is no funding for design and construction. So this is kind of a mix of different agencies, different private partners coming together, which is exciting. And it was discussed, the multimodal bridge over 40, and that's really important. This project has actually stimulated an expediting of that project, which is exciting. That will be at 30% design in March 2026. Fundings from another Six Forks project were pulled over here, so helping to advance that project because it is a key connector here, and our intention is to build this, help motivate that project, and will help it get federal, state funding as well as city funding. And then the outreach, again, you guys are all very familiar with. We brought 3 proposals to the public to consider, to vote on. We actually did 2 rounds of outreach. In our second round, these are the 3 alignments that we talked about. It was Plantation to Hines, Plantation to Belvin, as well as that streamside option in the Anderson Forest neighborhood. And 1,628 participants were surveyed and voted and supported that streamside option. When we talk about other options being more affordable, the public has spoken that this is the option that they really cherish for various reasons that we'll talk about throughout this proposal. But it was pretty resounding to vote for that. And then in terms of the evaluation criteria, it's been talked about, we try to be very sophisticated in the way we approach each of these projects, work closely with stormwater, with Raleigh Transportation, with real estate, with City Attorney's Office. These are the core criteria for which we evaluate our greenways in this project. Much of this comes from the comp plan, the Greenway master plan. So it's safety is absolutely critical, accessibility for all users. So that's not just walkers, not just bikers, that is wheelchairs, that is strollers, that is dog walkers. A lot of people use our Greenway, and this one in particular will be very popular. Stream bank protection, environmental investments are critical. Connection to nature. Preservation, we want to limit the removal of large trees. Proximity to homes. Constructability, land acquisition costs, utility relocation costs, and then of course popular support. Community engagement is really critical to us, and the votes we hear from the public are very critical in guiding which paths we choose. So with all that in mind, as you know, the alignment that we strongly recommend is the stream side option, and because it scores very well on all of these criteria, nearly all of these criteria. Safety, we have limited interaction with vehicle traffic and driveways, flat grades, good straight sight lines, direct route. The environmental investments, our partners at Stormwater will be contributing $1.2 million for stream bank restoration in that big branch, and we'll talk a bit about why that's so important. In terms of public support, 62%. We don't want to minimize that. That is really critical, that 62% support. A flatter grade makes sure that it's more accessible to strollers, to wheelchairs, to people walking their dogs, and everyone else. Provide stream bank buffer and connection to nature, limited utility location, and minimal trees removed, as well as protection of sewer easement. And this one is critical, the protection of sewer easement. You'll kind of see the before and after. The sewer line was replaced here over the last couple of years. There had been significant vegetation in that corridor. Many of those are kind of large, deep-rooted trees, which are not permitted in sewer easements and can puncture that critical infrastructure. So this path will not only protect the stream bank, will not only bring stewardship and maintenance to that stream bank, but also protect critical infrastructure and our sewer line. It makes an appropriate path. The trees, and we'll also, of course, have lots of native plantings and native flowers in that path as well. And then the alignment alternatives, and we'll go through several. We'll see, I can see what all they are. So Plantation and Hines, this came from the online survey. Plantation and Belvin from the online survey. Anderson Forest Sidewalks, we've heard from the board. Industrial Drive Waketown from citizens. Anderson Drive Six Forks from citizens. And then this Streamside East came from a Parks Board member as well as a visit to the area. First, Plantation and Hines. One of the first reasons just to elevate that's not here is it was not the most popular route when it was voted on by the public in a very large survey. It is a steep hill up Plantation, so that's real accessibility issues, crossing lots of driveways, and not just driveways, but driveways that have a very steep pitch, so the sight lines coming out of those driveways are quite dangerous. Costly retaining walls needed, proximity to homes. Because the street is so narrow, if we were to build a sidewalk there, and this is not even a full Greenway path, but just a sidewalk on that street, we'd have to eliminate all on-street parking so that fire trucks can come through. So that's a serious issue as well. And then property acquisition and utility relocation. We've talked about that extensively, but anytime you're dealing with Duke Energy and other utility relocation, it adds a lot of uncertainty to a project. And then, of course, the stewardship is important, 17 to 22 trees removed for that route. Plantation and Belvin, very similar, scored even lower in the public survey. Steep hill, both up Plantation as well as down Belvin. So the accessibility for strollers, for wheelchairs, for others is very limited. 8 driveways and 8 dangerous driveways cross, very close proximity to homes, 20 feet at some times, elimination of all on-street parking, significant property acquisition, utility relocation, and a lot of trees removed as well. This is a new one, and it's kind of an important one to look at. Anderson Forest sidewalks were discussed as an option. The key one here is really the constructability. You'll see at the inset, those driveways are very tightly connected to one another, are very close proximity to each other, so there's just fundamentally not room to put a Greenway path through those driveways. We would have to go up a driveway, eliminate access for that home, and it would likely have to be a total taking on that home. So there's just fundamental constraints when it comes to how close those homes are, but then also the driveways are actually pitched right next to each other. Also, just on the accessibility side, it's a 5-foot sidewalk. So when we think about wheelchairs and strollers and dogs and bikes, that would be a very narrow path. There's only sidewalk on one side. Coming on to the on-street options, I think we've heard a lot from people today about Six Forks Road being extremely dangerous, and the numbers bear that out. 37 crashes on Six Forks and Anderson over the last 5 years, 31 crashes and 7 injuries on Six Forks and Barrett. People move down this road like an expressway. It is quite steep and also winds, so the sight lines are not strong. So if you have a bike going up one way and a bike going down the other way, there is a real opportunity for collision unless we make a very wide path, which we would do. That would entail property acquisition of about 16 properties, costly retaining walls on Six Forks, and this multiple road crossings and driveways. We would like to stay off Six Forks for obvious safety reasons, for site acquisition, for utility relocation reasons. And similarly, Industrial Drive in Waketown. Also, on Waketown and Wake Forest, that intersection specifically, 84 crashes and 21 injuries. That is one of the most dangerous intersections in the city. It crosses 15 commercial driveways, including Costco. There is a bike path on Industrial, but the sidewalk is interrupted on Industrial. There's no bike infrastructure on Wake Forest or Waketown. And specifically, RDOT has recommended that we build a bike bridge over that 7-lane Wake Forest Road because it is so dangerous. That would be up to $4 million, which starts to get prohibitively expensive. There's also a lot of property acquisition and utility relocation associated with this one. And now getting to Streamside East. I think after our site visit, there was some popularity around this route specifically, so we wanted to go into it. I think we came into it with some optimism and some hope, but it really is the pinch points which make this, unfortunately, impractical. The path would be just 10 feet from the closest home at the end of Belvin. We would also need to build, because it's a steep stream bank and because the home is so close, we'd have to build a boardwalk up on top of that house that is just 10 feet away, so you'd have an elevated boardwalk. In general, building that kind of structure in the stream bank is not recommended in terms of maintaining the stream bank, but also we've seen on Crabtree, boardwalk structures like that have collapsed. We've had to abandon it and move to an on-street option, so building that infrastructure to only see it be kind of worn away and to damage the stream bank would be obviously a poor use of our funding, and just general constructability, costly retaining walls, elevated boardwalk, significant pinch points, and approximately 20 large trees to be removed on that path. And then going back to this evaluation criteria, because I think these all were touched upon as I went through these alternatives: safety, accessibility, stream bank, restoration, connection to nature, and you will see we provided something of a tick marks on why the streamside option is, while challenging, there is no easy route here, is far superior route. In terms of its core blemishes are the proximity to homes, as well as the land acquisition, which we will talk about in a bit. But compared to other routes, it's a significantly better option in terms of constructability and safety, proximity to nature, and stream bank restoration. And then moving forward, and these are important. I really want to talk about just all the implications here. Obviously, we want to work hand in hand with the community, whatever we do here, and make this the best outcome possible. In terms of stream bank restoration, putting $1.2 million investment into that area is going to be really important in terms of restoring the stream bank after flooding, after construction projects, and that is allowable within the News River buffer rules. Wayne Miles from Stormwater is here to talk more about these elements. This is the type of investments we would make, which we think will make a really important difference in restoring that stream bank. Privacy and safety, and this is obviously a really important one. There's privacy concerns from the homes adjacent to the alignment. Impermeable fencing would be allowed here. Flood-resistant privacy landscaping is allowed. The homeowners could put this on their property. We would reimburse them. We're very happy to work closely with the homeowners to make sure that this project is as acceptable as possible. And it is important for just precedent and context. Some of these homes, as you can see, 55 feet, 75 feet, 90 feet from this path. We have 143 single-family homes within 100 feet of the Greenway and 57 within 50 feet. That's just single-family. When you have multi-unit, when you have business, it's a lot more. But this is not without precedent to have homes even far closer this to the Greenway and still maintain a great experience. And then another one on safety. Obviously, you've heard a lot about crime. there's been numerous studies over the years, including many centered on Raleigh, that there is not a correlation between crime and greenways. In fact, it's quite the opposite. That said, we take this issue very seriously. We have a Greenway unit that is devoted to the Greenway, and that they're actually increasing to 2 squads. That includes 1 sergeant and 3 officers in the near future. So, Ian, I know that you've talked about it in the past, but we are looking at hotspots along the Greenway and making sure that our RPD team is devoted to those areas, because that's extremely important to us that we maintain safe greenways. And then the flooding issue has come up a lot, and I also want to just take that head on. We do have a very sophisticated flood early warning system using data collection, weather forecasting, flood modeling, so that we can identify when floods are coming before they arrive, and closing very vulnerable sections of the Greenway if necessary, if a big flood is coming. We have 33 staff members on our Greenway maintenance team. After floods, they clear away the area, but also doing that stream bank restoration, also doing plantings, also being stewards of the stream bank, as well as the sewer easement and of the whole property is really critical. And lastly, as we all know, a large majority of our Greenway system is within flood areas, and we've never seen someone swept away by a flood in all of our 40 years. And I think a lot of it is because we have a lot of resources devoted to making sure that these areas stay very safe. And then the last one, the easement acquisition process is really essential. We want, this is really important. Anderson Forest, as we all know, exists within a scenic Greenway easement. That does not allow for construction of a trail. The city will have to acquire a new easement using the following steps. We would appraise the easement, we would offer a purchase negotiation, and go through condemnation if agreement cannot be negotiated. I just want to be very explicit about that. That would be needed. We have, over the last 4 years, the city has filed for condemnation about 120 times from projects large and small, including 5 sidewalk projects, 1 bus shelter project, other roadway projects. So it is not uncommon to use condemnation, but as it's been said, we like to do it with a scalpel, not with a hammer. Try to be very careful about it, and purchasing an easement is the appropriate way to handle it in this area, but we will leave that to negotiation and to others moving forward. And then lastly, the construction costs. The estimate for this section, which is 1B, is a little over $3 million. With markup, because that estimate came about 6 months ago, could probably add about 2%. As we kind of mull over these options, Section 1, $900,000, Section 4, about $900,000. So that does not include design, and it does not include acquisition, but that number is within our $5.7 million budget. And as we see kind of land acquisitions, hopefully we can negotiate and come to a good place with the public. But if lawsuits are necessary, as well as continuing design costs, it may go over that. We'll work with our budget office. But we think that this project is within cost and is a very high priority, that if there are overages, we'll work through that. And lastly, this is the schedule moving forward, going to council in November, going through 69% design, and constructing in spring 2028. So I look forward to hearing your questions, and hopefully I've addressed a lot of concerns. And again, thank you so much. We really think this is a high priority project, and love to hear what you have to say.
All right, thank you, Adam. Before I open this up for questions, just as a procedural item, I want to mention to the board, a lot of folks have come to me and asked for an opportunity to discuss at the table. We'll have an opportunity to discuss this basically at the time where we would normally entertain a motion. So basically the way this will proceed is that right now, let's focus on asking Adam any questions that you have. After Adam has answered all those questions, then I will open the floor up for the board to openly discuss things that are of concern to them. And then at that point, we can basically take motions. It can be a motion that's suggested by staff. It could be a different motion. So at this time, any questions for Adam? Ian.
Thanks, Adam. 2 questions. One, for both this project and any others that are by flood areas, are there any plans to include like a visual depth marker? So somebody who doesn't have a phone, who didn't check the forecast, can see, yes, that greenway is 6 inches or a foot deep in water, I shouldn't go through.
Yeah, we include signage as part of that system. That is actually, using our existing staff and other staff in the city, it is actually, putting out signage saying, don't pass through this area. So we are proactive in marking areas if there is storms coming.
Okay, and just to clarify on the previous, on all the options, you say either land acquisition or significant land acquisition. In all of that, you're talking about either the easement or the condemnation?
In terms of land acquisition, or particularly in this case, easement acquisition, that's what we're referring to, yeah, an easement for a Greenway trail.
All right, thank you.
In other cases, yeah, there's similar easements or otherwise.
All right. Other questions? Doug?
The same question that I've been raising about the other side of the creek. If, should the creek side west be approved, that's your recommendation. Is this item 2 on the list of discussing what you might add for preserving the perspective across the creek towards the option Creekside East?
Can you rephrase?
There's a big parking lot on Creekside East, and when you're on the other side, which I've had the opportunity to see from courtesy of the neighbors there, and I appreciated their openness to discussion, it doesn't look so good.
Oh, the parking lot, yeah.
And so that would be part of any consideration I gave to the west option. And I'd be interested to know if you looked at whether there's room to really just screening automobiles. Though there's a little bit of forest on that side, but it's sketchy at some important points.
Yeah, and without question, the opportunity to remove impervious material is, impervious material is always important. In this case, I think that the choke points around the co-op, as well as the proximity to the
Right, that's another discussion we can talk about. If I could figure out what would be the possibility, but I don't see one either.
Yeah, but to your point, in terms of view sheds and sight lines, and maintaining kind of the natural ecosystem, I think staying along the stream corridor is so important, and that's why we kind of support this west side alignment in terms of the plantings, the stream bank stabilization that comes with.
Are you saying you do something about the screening on the east side of the east side of the creek?
Our investments would be on the west side.
I'm sorry?
Our investments would be on the west side.
Okay, well, I have a big problem with pretending the creek doesn't have 2 sides that are important to the Greenway, and I'll listen for other discussion about that.
All right. Other questions for Adam? Linda?
Do you know if the city has ever condemned one of its own conservation easements?
Linda, could you move the mic with you in your
Sorry.
turn?
Do you know if the city has ever condemned one of its own conservation easements?
I'm uncertain. I know that for greenways, we use condemnation for House Creek Trail, East Fork Mine Trail, Honey Creek Trail, Crabtree Creek, Walnut Creek, News River Trail. So condemnation is very common in linear projects, and with any greenway projects, again, appraising and negotiating both for investments in that area is our preferred path, but it is not unusual to use condemnation, and we always try to do so with, as we said, very sparingly.
All right. Other questions? Kate?
I'm a member, a Parks Board member who asked about the east side. There may have been others too. What I had asked about, though, wasn't, I had seen this proposal that you had laid out, but I was really interested in, would it be possible to negotiate with homeowners and landowners on the east side to actually buy land and even structures?
Yeah.
And you had mentioned to me that you were going to talk to the real estate office. Did that happen? Where is that whole discussion?
Yeah, we did. We talked to that co-op today, and I know that you have brought up options to move that path farther off the stream bank for that 50-foot buffer. In order to do so, as you mentioned, kind of the last home on Belvent would have to be removed, as well as 2 to 3 townhomes would have to be removed. That was kind of the core issue of why that was a challenge for us in terms of the very significant acquisition costs and then total condemnations and displacement that would be needed for that. We did talk with the co-op owners today. What they brought up was that they are working on right now the facade of the building and some interior improvements that they would see this as an opportunity to, if we condemn, to cash in and to fund those improvements. So the idea that this would be it becomes, the financial feasibility of this is extraordinarily hard, increasing the cost by maybe $5 million. But I mean, in terms of the premise of moving farther off of the stream bank and protecting the stream bank, obviously extremely essential to us, and we agree that those kind of the aims here, and this is why we chose the path that we did in terms of the stream bank improvement, in terms of the opportunity for native plantings and being close to the corridor.
Adam, you mentioned that it might increase the cost by almost $5 million. Was that the estimate given by the real estate office?
I shouldn't have used those numbers specifically. It's in terms of, and Ralph can come up and talk about it, but in terms of removing 25, 30, 40 parking spaces, in terms of removing 2 to 3 townhomes, and then removing an entire property, as well as coming in with 20 feet to the other Belvin property. So it would be 1 single family home and 2 to 3 townhomes, and then within 20 feet of a third home. We're talking about a very, very considerable condemnation costs, as well as displacement of people and businesses.
Yeah, and then kind of a follow-up to that, you mentioned in the budget slide that you showed us that obviously the most of the design and construction is going to be within budget, but obviously that doesn't include the condemnation costs, and we don't know what the condemnation cost would be yet until we have an estimate. But when we have an estimate, where would that funding come from?
We would work with city budget on that. With this Greenway costs, Greenways are expensive.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a great question. So in projects that exceed budget, it's the department's responsibility to work with the city manager and budget management services to identify sources, whether it be in the Parks Department or other funds within the city to address those overages. So this would be too preliminary to say where the dollars come from. If the council chose that direction, they would task the manager to fund that gap and bring it back to them as a recommendation.
Okay. Would it be fair to wonder if maybe the information the board needs would be the total for that estimate as well as the estimate for the construction on the east side to be able to weigh those against each other?
I don't think I understand your question.
So we don't necessarily have the estimate for how much it would cost to buy part of the parking lot, part of the townhomes, and the house, and we would have to figure out what that estimate is, and we don't have the estimate for the land acquisition on the west side. But both of those would be in addition to the construction and design. So
I don't know of a project in the city in 20 years where they had brought forward, this is what it's going to cost to actually acquire that, to make a recommendation at the board level. The council may say, we want to pause on that decision until we get hard numbers. But it could take time to get to those numbers.
Well, yeah, and the reason I asked that obviously is that one of the reasons against the west side is that we're citing substantial cost. But if it's costlier to build on the west side, that seems like the reason for the east side alignment wouldn't necessarily be that much of an obstacle. And I think some of the board members might feel that way. So,
be clear, the board feels like the east side would be cheaper acquisition of parking lots.
I think we don't know because we don't have those numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for Adam? That was my question. Kara?
So, Adam, back in July, we talked about how some of those pictures were photoshopped, and we talked about tonight just the importance of public engagement. When I initially looked at those pictures, it looks like the only clear option is the stream side behind those homes because the homes look a lot further away. It looks very different than when you go there in public. So we have people making comments about what precedent we're setting. We have people making comments about trusting the staff, but it's not very transparent to put out pictures that don't look like the actual site and then say we've had 62% of people. And I think that 62%, did that correlate to like kind of adding a couple of things together? I also remember there were like a couple different options that were added together.
That was the first vote that it was split among 4. In the
Okay.
last one, it was just those 3.
Okay.
So that one got 62%.
Did we use those pictures in both votes?
We used those pictures as well as pictures for the other alignment. Any photos we do are going to be like rendered because that condition doesn't exist beforehand. So we're going to add in that path just as we added in a path when we went up Hines and Belvin Plantation. So any path we do, we're going to render with what it will look like after we. So it's not necessarily Photoshop. It is the designers are going to draw what the condition will look like after the intervention, and that's what happened.
I thought in July that you acknowledged that it was kind of altered.
Altered in terms of the designers altered to see what that would look like when it was finished. I mean, that's what we do with
But the houses aren't going to be further away when the trail is finished.
Oh, the houses weren't farther away.
It looks like there's a lot more space in the photos than there actually is.
Kimberly Horn wants
I'm
to
not
talk
talking about this particular photo.
Yeah, and this is the photo, so you can really see where it is. But Kimberly Horn can speak to that.
Sure. So the thing that's the big difference between those is the vegetation that's on the edge has been removed as part of the stream bank stabilization priorities. But the intent and what was shown in those images was not a shift of the houses away in any way.
I'd have to pull up, I think, in my emails what I'm talking about specifically, but it is a very different image than when you go there in person and you're looking at the distance. I'm talking about the distance.
Right.
And it's really hard for a citizen in general to make a decision based off of a picture that isn't accurate.
Yeah.
I think that kind of taints some of the public engagement responses because people aren't getting the full picture.
Yeah.
Literally, they're not getting the full picture.
And I would say it wasn't tainted anyway in terms of the distances, but in terms of design, I may have been a misunderstanding with that. But those were the photos that were, from the pictures and then adding in the design element.
All right, Steve?
Yeah. Two things. One, I have to agree. That image that was used, I understand it was a rendering, but when when I first saw it, I was like, oh gosh, that looks great. Then I went down to the area and realized that what wasn't even in those images in the rendering was the sewer enhancements.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I walk through somebody's backyard and the first thing I see going up quite a distance is these things popping up.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, it might have supported the idea.
Yeah,
but in other ways, not so much because you're saying, well, you already got this. How exactly does that work? So it really, unfortunately for me, that threw me off on the survey results, quite frankly,
understood.
because I know a lot of lobbying went on those results. Quite frankly, one neighborhood was pushing everybody in the other neighborhood to go for it. And when you look at the results that came in, they were sort of skewed to spread in an odd way. And I get that.
Yeah.
They also didn't allow for comments on that second survey either. So, you put that sort of together, and that's where I looked at that number, and I was like, that's, if you're into surveys, you look for bias, and that was a bit biased.
Mm-hmm.
Separate question, though. I noticed a text change under consideration. I think it's 325 that talks about greenway placement near, near water sites and things like that, as well as houses. And I think what it did is tightened or suggest to tighten up some of the restrictions in terms of how close a paved greenway is to a waterway. And it mentions the Neuse, it mentions a couple other basins. I had a couple of people mention to me that this would seem to preclude, if it passed, this wouldn't fit within those new guidelines. Can anybody speak to that?
Yeah, the new guidelines for any priority trail, we would get a 70-foot easement for Greenway. So we would have a 70-foot easement in this case if these properties were built today. So that easement would be in place. So that is the key thing. In terms of where it's placed along the stream bank, it doesn't speak to that. One thing that you might be referring to is if the developer builds the trail, the easement goes down to 30 feet rather than 75 feet. It's important that it's constructible, but it wouldn't be the same 75-foot easement. It would just be a narrower easement, so what the city has control over on each side of the path in terms of the shoulder.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Kate?
The way this may not be what you were referring to, but I was thinking about the Neuse buffer rules, which were passed by the state years and years ago. And the idea is to protect water quality and wildlife habitat in all of the streams and the Neuse River itself. And that buffer is to be 50 feet, although for trails and other things, you can apply to the state for an exemption. But the state felt strongly enough about this that they put that in place. And I think that the city should try whenever possible to follow that recommendation. I mean, there may be some times when that's not needed, but to keep trails that far away, I would like to see.
Yeah, Steve was talking about a zoning amendment that we're passing, so a little different than that state legislation, but yeah, that state rule of not building within the first 30 feet of the buffer, trying to build within 50 feet, but unless you can't, and then there is allowance to do that, that would be the example in this case because of pinch points and not wanting to be 5 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet from homes. This is why we're a little closer to the stream bank, but with that remediation, with those plantings, we believe we'll obviate those issues.
Let me ask a question.
Oh, go ahead.
I understand the concept of money should be spent towards something that has been approved. This is a brand new trail, but how many other Greenway trails could be finished or started in a smaller place that is less controversial? How far could we get with this money?
Yeah. I will say another project that we're working on, which is a new trail, is the Marsh Creek Master Plan. In that one, we will need to potentially go over a railroad and negotiating. Like, there are no easy trails. Every trail is going to be expensive, and especially ones where we're trying to go into, dense mixed-use neighborhoods. We say this a lot, and I feel like maybe it loses credibility or just kind of loses its weight, but there are no new, easy trails left. This is one that, for so many reasons, is a high priority, and that's why we're prioritizing it.
I think I'm trying to get to the point of there are plenty of places that could still be worked on. This is still going to be going on. In fact, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like this board is they'll be split as well. Does that represent what's going to happen with the council? Does that push it into next year? At what point do we look for the easiest of the hard? Hard is authorized.
Yeah.
I understand how that works. But the idea of trying to find some positive movement and some consensus in where this can or should go in an effort to make this work.
No, I totally appreciate that sentiment.
All right, Stephen.
And this was a very large scale plan, and I appreciate all the work you've done on this. And this, I know you're not going to be able to give me a complete accurate ballpark, but to put a max limit, a large bridge that essentially just goes over the stream the whole entire way, gated and everything, what would you say is the ballpark of some things? Because that would, I guess, be the limit.
Yeah. I don't want to venture a guess, but yeah, prohibitively expensive. We want to stay anchored to our budget, though recognizing that these projects are very expensive. Any Greenway is going to be, but yeah, I don't want to kind of offer a dollar amount. But to your point, this is a small section. This is a quarter mile of potentially a 3.5 mile trail, and it's actually kind of revealing of. We haven't had this type of contentiousness with other sections of the Greenway. So in terms of finding like the lowest hanging fruit or an easy trail, we're actually kind of been pleasantly surprised that this is the one section that is really contentious, but the rest, I think we've really designed it expertly in order to avoid some of that. So there are no easy trails. This section is obviously contentious, but it's a hard one, and luckily it's just this area in amidst a very transformative project.
Kara.
Can we go back to the sidewalk option, please?
Yeah, please. And I'll show a rendering too before I go of what it actually looks like at the end of the road. This is a terrible render because of Google Maps, but you can see how close the driveways are and the trees in the middle of those driveways. But those are the options.
So going on the sidewalk and cutting in the back, where would that cut in? I can't really tell from this picture.
So that would be, it would have to go. Because those driveways are so close to one another, the only way to do it would be to go over a driveway, which would eliminate those houses' access to
The driveway's on the other side of the trees?
Yeah, let me show you. You can see those three, how closely they hug to each other. So you're seeing that Greenway path, rendering of going in between there, that's less than 8 feet. There isn't the space to do that, and we would be going on multiple pieces of property and blocking access for one of the homes.
Adam, if you just went 2 houses down where there's no driveways, wouldn't that be able to get into the backyards and not run into a driveway?
You would, and then you would have to go through 4 properties there.
Which is less than 8 or 9.
What's that?
But that's less than 8 or 9. Wouldn't that probably be cheaper than condemning all those backyards?
Yeah. I mean, the proximity of the homes would be closer, so we're not talking about 55 feet. We're talking about 10 feet between homes and then going through 4 to 5 properties. So we're getting to the same issues. At the end of the day, I mean, as you guys know, there is no easy option here. Everyone has its challenges. I think some board members prefer this one or that one or this one. There is going to be I don't think you 100% approve anything. These are challenging options, and we think based on the criteria that we've developed, that the big branch option really serves the public, serves the Greenway users, and is the best option.
What is the width of the sidewalk on Six Forks? Because every route that's recommended takes that Six Forks sidewalk.
So that in that area, can you speak to that?
So in the area where we would be along Six Forks, we would be widening. there's a wide berm already there. We would be widening that to the full width of the rest of the Greenway. So if it's within that Greenway section, if you do it in other parts of it, if you're doing that widening, the berm is not quite as wide as we've talked about or shown, there would be more property impacts. But in that area directly by Plantation and then going down the backside of the Anderson Forest homes, there's a wide berm there that we'd be able to take advantage of, and we would be widening out to the full width.
Okay. Could you remind me how wide that would be in feet?
10 feet.
10 feet, okay. All right. Other questions, board members? Oh, yeah, Daniel.
Sorry, Adam, you had the slide with all the ticks and checks.
Yeah, please,
that was
that's helpful.
great, but I wondered if you could, and I only really care about the two sides of the stream options, walking us through what those X's actually mean. And
Yeah, so that's.
but if there's other routes that people want to hear about,
Yeah,
I'm
of
open
course,
to that.
happy to. And of course, this is imperfect, but this is, I think, it provides a good guidance for where we're at. Does not fulfill is a black X and then an outline of an X is partially does not fulfill. So on safety, we're not dealing with driveways or going along Six Forks or crossing Wake Town. So both stream options are good on safety. In terms of accessibility, both are decent, but in terms of having that the tight pinch points around the townhomes, as well as that boardwalk, there's a little bit issues with accessibility. When it comes to the east side, the west side gives you a wider perch. In terms of proximity to homes, obviously both are close to homes. The east side option, as we said, would be within 10 feet of that last home. And if we did go outside of the 50-foot corridor, it would we'd have to remove one home and 2 to 3 townhomes and be within 20 feet of another. So extreme proximity when it comes to that one, but also, of course, proximity on the stream side option. In terms of constructability, the issue with the stream side option was twofold. It was the retaining wall because of the steepness of the stream bank, as well as the pinch point, and then the boardwalk as well, which we've talked about, has been an issue in other locations, having a boardwalk on the stream bank. In terms of proximity to nature, being along the stream bank, both are obviously very agreeable. Tree removal, very limited tree removal on the stream side option, but pretty extensive on the east option. In terms of stream bank restoration, we have an opportunity to do that for both sides, which is excellent. In terms of land acquisition, high on both, but orders of magnitude higher on stream side east. In terms of utility location, neither. And in terms of popularity, the stream side option did have a high vote. The other one was not voted on. Please.
It was actually partially voted on in the first survey.
Partially voted on, yeah.
And scored pretty high.
You just stated that it was, land acquisition was significantly higher on the east side, but you don't actually know that.
Right, you don't.
We have, if you want to talk, actually, so we have done,
I'll say we have not done estimates on the stream side east, so I would be remiss to try to estimate what that is. I know that there was some conversation perhaps with what that might have been with real estate. The estimates that we have provided on Streamside West or Creekside West has been based on a per square footage and not been on a market value piece, but it's been done based on Wake County tax value.
What is that estimate?
And we have Ralph, who's the head of the real estate office, to talk about this. I appreciate it.
So I'm Ralph Ritchie. I'm the real estate manager for the city. We haven't done any appraisals for this yet because we don't have a route yet, right? So when we pick a route, the first step would be to get appraisals to give us some kind of an idea. Now, the most ideal circumstance for buying a piece of property is when you have a willing seller and a willing buyer. We're the willing buyer. We don't necessarily have a willing seller, so this isn't necessarily going to be the exact appraised value. Condemnation would be the absolute last resort. We would do everything we could to avoid any condemnations. That's the most expensive way to get the property, right? Because we have legal costs and so forth. So although tax value gives us some kind of an idea of what we might be dealing with, it's really not the market value of something. As you know, you're always a little stunned when you get your tax valuation for your property, but when you go to sell it, you realize you get much more for that sometimes. So we don't know this until we get the estimate or to the appraisals.
So I appreciate that, but I think that it's unfair to say that it's going to be one option's going to be more expensive than the other, given the limited information we have, and the expectation that the stream side option on the west side is probably going to result in lengthy condemnation hearings, and you're going to have to condemn a conservation easement as well as the property.
There is probably going to be condemnation either way. We don't have willing sellers. We can look at what the impacts are of the properties, though, and the farthest rear to each property is going to be less impactful than, for instance, taking the parking spaces away from an office development. That would probably be a very expensive damage. So for instance, I think they were citing a particular home where one of the routes would be within 10 feet of their patio. That would be a very substantial damage to that property. Those people would have quite a claim against it. So you can kind of estimate what the likelihood of being able to negotiate a settlement with the people based on how little it actually damages their property. So if it's 65 feet from your back door and it's along a sewer easement that is already there, that's probably not going to be as expensive as coming right up against your patio, for example.
All right. Other questions?
Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
I conferred with my colleague. We did do an estimate for the east side, but it was only done on a square footage value, and it was more expensive on the east side than on the west side, based on just pure square footage. We don't have a tax value that we use to base that off of, so we made some guesstimates based on what other business categories are. What I would say is the property impacts there are just very different and would really need to go through an appraisal process to get a really good value to understand what that is. So I just wanted to clarify that piece.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 1.6 million was, again, an estimate for the east side, 1.2 million for the west side. I think you all saw the records that were shared, the public record request. But once again, if we're talking about additional townhomes being removed and a full home, it would be higher. But we've done a baseline estimate, but it is the appraisal process where we would get kind of a clearer view. But based on the work that they've done and that square footage estimate, the east side is higher.
I had a
Okay.
follow-up on.
Daniel, go ahead.
And on the accessibility column, there's a bridge that has to go in on the west side, right? So I guess walk me through why a boardwalk is less accessible than building a bridge.
It was really more, I would say, the pinch point in the home that we get to a very narrow taper there. That was the worry and the need for some railing. But yeah, that I think that is fair. I think it's more it's a straight route. It is mostly a flat route. It is a structure of a bridge, which we have across the system. But in terms of the retaining wall, in terms of that boardwalk, there's just additional structure that's been unusual.
All right, Kara.
Adam, I'm looking at all these black X's on the Plantation Road options, and I'm wondering if they do not fulfill, like particularly the one on top, they don't fulfill anything. Why were they presented to the public as an option?
Well, initially, as you guys know, we presented 3 options along the creek, and then just that Belvin and Plantation. And it was, as we got feedback of why don't you look at Hines, honestly, it's been an accumulative process in the same way it's been in this conversation. Every time we present, it's think about this additional option, think about this additional option, think about this additional option. So I think we've accumulated to a lot of them. But yeah, in our analysis and in the kind of continuation of the work of Kimley Horn, I think it's become pretty clear that it's not a preferred option.
And Adam,
Those options came later.
But the Belvin Drive one was always there, right?
The Belvin plant, yeah, that one was
and
always
that
there.
doesn't have a lot of fulfills either.
And as you guys know, that the overall cost was lower on that. But I think we heard from the public that they don't want that, and it's because of a lot of those reasons. Entertaining a non-street option is something that is sometimes important to do, but the public spoke very loudly that they did not want that. They want a stream bank option, and that's where we're leaning.
Other questions for Adam? Doug?
2 or 3 of the townhouse units, do we know which it would be?
We don't. We figured out just, and we got that request pretty recently to try to take a look at that, but with the 50-foot buffer offset, it would be between 2 or 3. A lot of that comes down to how those units were constructed and those details that we just aren't privy to yet. But it would be between 2 or 3.
And again, to affirm, I think a lot in the room and a lot of this discussion is about the benefit of being on the stream side for lots of reasons, and our priorities to protect the stream bank. And we share those. Let's figure out how we can do this. Unfortunately, that proposal and being over 50 feet led to a lot of issues, but I think we're all working in that spirit of the stream bank is the preferred route and the best route.
All right. Any other questions for Adam? Stephen?
You can correct me if this is not an appropriate question to ask, but necessarily, is this essentially the full kind of Parks Department and the staff side's kind of feeling? I guess you and the rest of the Greenway, you guys have been doing all this work. You guys feel that this option is the best and in this timeliness manner?
We do. And I would say not only the Parks Department, but we're working very closely with RDOT, with our friends from Stormwater, with real estate from CAO. I think, as we said, this has been a challenge, and we don't want to minimize that in any way. And it's taken a real whole of city analysis and a whole of city approach to assess these routes and figure out the best way to do it, including bringing $1.2 million to the table from Stormwater, because we believe in this and we want to move forward with this. So the answer is yes, but I in no way want to minimize the challenges of any route. But we believe this is the best route, both the whole Parks Department and as a city.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions?
Is there any way to compare stormwater benefits? I've looked at that parking lot on the east, Creekside East, and from a stormwater point of view, it's probably as close to a disaster as you can find.
Yeah.
So do we get some benefit in going with the east side that is a benefit to stormwater over the benefits on the other side?
We did have Stormwater do an analysis. In the total draining area, there's 1.2 million square feet for that big branch area of impervious material. 1.2 million square feet for the entire drainage area. 549,000 square feet is impervious. That would reduce about 16,000. So you would go to about 45% impervious to 44.999% impervious. So in terms of seeing any modeling and the change in flooding, it would have a negligible impact.
You say small amount.
Yeah, next to nothing. So agreed that having that much pavement near a stream bank offends my sensibilities. I think we're all environmentalists here, but in terms of the impact of removing that, it would have a zero impact on flooding.
All right.
A near zero.
Thank you, Adam. Other questions for Adam? Steve?
Just quick hypothetical, was there any look at a west and east solution?
There have been west and east in terms of one of the initial proposals. The biggest reason not to was the bridging over twice was the big issue, and not wanting to build two structures over the creek.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like that's all the questions. Adam, we really appreciate the time you spent on this. We can tell from the presentation you guys spent a lot more time in addition to what you've already spent gathering answers for us. Obviously, as a board, and this is for board members, normally it would be fine. I would be willing to entertain a motion to table this if we didn't have enough information, but I think Adam's been gathering the information that we've asked for. If anybody feels like there is additional information they want to know about the options, this is really the best opportunity to be able to ask directly to Adam. Obviously, during discussion, we can still entertain that motion, but Adam, appreciate the time you took for this. If you don't mind leaving this presentation up, because I think it'll be really valuable, and if you don't mind staying nearby, because we might need you to flip through slides. I think a number of these slides might be really helpful to us as we kind of discuss this, if there is discussion. So thank you. At this time, is there any discussion at the table? Anybody want to make any statements for or against any options, or in general about the process, or things that they want to know more about? Linda?
I don't know if this is, I think Steve's got a question, or? No, okay.
Okay.
So I was going to make a comment. about how I probably will vote on this. I don't know if that, you want those comments now or?
I think that's fine. If you have some rationale behind that vote, it might be valuable to other people at the table. I don't think anybody came here tonight knowing the way they were going to vote beforehand. I think it'll be helpful.
So my concern applies to the existing scenic greenway easement. Conservation easements are a very important tool for conservation in North Carolina. There are tens of thousands of acres in North Carolina that are protected by conservation easements, and many of those are state or federal or nonprofit organizations that own those easements. Maintaining the integrity of conservation easements is very important. And for the city to go so blithely to looking at violating the terms of the easement, where the easement was signed by both parties. Admittedly, it was years ago, a few years ago, in terms of an easement that was granted in perpetuity. But to violate the terms of the easement, which clearly state no trails will be built on in the buffer that was protected by the easement, is very uncomfortable to me. I don't know if this easement was took advantage of the conservation tax credit. If it did, that's something that needs to be looked into. So my concern about the city's lack of concern for protecting the easement or continuing with the conditions of the easement make me not comfortable voting for the Streamside West option.
Okay. Thanks, Linda. Steve?
Just framing the discussion a little bit because of things I've heard and things that have been presented, things that have been put out there. I'd like to think our discussion really is focused very much on the 1B. There is no suggestion, and I know I'm not a person who is opposed in any way to the big branch. I lobbied for it when it was an idea, and I think it is very important. I think the main concerns that have come before us and the concerns that many of us share is specific to 1B. It's a carve-out. It's sort of a singular issue, similar to the issue we discussed earlier where we saw one option where we asked that it needed a little further understanding. So I don't want whatever the outcome tonight be misinterpreted as a negation of the Big Branch Connector. A concern I have is the acquisition issues, no matter which way it goes. And part of the reason behind that is, for example, we saw the Six Forks project go off the rails largely because of acquisition issues that took years to take care of. The other part that's important about this is we also need to keep in mind what can actually be funded here and what is being funded and what doesn't have funding yet. The bridge, for example. The bridge is the linchpin of this entire project. And the bridge has only recently received funding for design because it got funding from the cancellation of the Six Forks project. So there's still a lot in limbo here that we need to understand. There is some time, I believe, around this. I wouldn't suggest in any way that we take the Big Branch project off the table. It's too important. And I have a vested interest in it. I'm on a Greenway island. So, I'd like to see this connection. But at the same time, the 1B is concerning. Just the way it has gone from start to finish in front of us has probably not been the best look for all of us. And that's where my concern lies, and that is there, and I understand, I appreciate how difficult this is. But my favorite prof at NC State in some city planning said, it's any decision that comes before any board and any council involves trade-offs. And I think this one feels a little lopsided, and maybe that's just me. I don't see the greater the greater trade-off going on. So I'm just wondering if maybe we can do better. That's it.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
I do not have a favorite option among any of the ones that have been presented. Different concerns about each one. The streamside option certainly is a beautiful strip, but I went out there and saw the water rise 2 feet in those backyards. It had come there in a matter of about 10 minutes, and you could have skied on it. I appreciate the assurance that nobody's ever been washed away in a greenway in the city of Raleigh, but the people in Texas cannot say that. I cannot support an option that has that potential. If you give me a boardwalk, give me some dirt, give me something, get above floodplain level, and I'll go with it. But I can't forget seeing the water up to those manholes that are made there, knowing it's going to flood with snorkels. I cannot get beyond thinking about, we're going to have people come out and block these things off. Not in 10 minutes, we're not, day or night. I would ask that before we make any decision, I would like to see the west-east option looked at and explored, and perhaps design some. You all know, I guess, I'm the lover of bridges. The bridge is a good experience if built correctly. We saw that on Mine Creek. They were put there in the 70s for a reason. You don't put 2 bridges over a creek to cross the ditch. You do it for the experience of watching the water flow and standing there and experiencing a little bit of the finer parts of life. If we have to put 2 bridges, I've seen costs go from $1 million a piece down to $300,000. Same bridges. We don't know, but we'll have to get some better numbers eventually. I would like to see us look at bringing the trail down to where we have the bridge goes over the branch, and then as far as we have to get around the problem area of proximity, and frankly, there's some really nice trees down at the end of that street. We get down the side of that branch and then cross back over. If we have to buy parking spots, I'd much rather do that than I would put a greenway in the backyards that's going to flood 4 feet deep, or 2 feet deep, pardon me. My preference. Thank you.
All right. Stephen?
More of a recommendation for proceedings. I guess we're kind of all coming towards debate in a sense for a motion. So I'm wondering if we should kind of, for expedience sakes and the recommendation to the chair, to have someone make a motion so then we can at least debate on a pro to con debate status of that before discussion. Again, doesn't have to be taken, but just a recommendation.
No, I appreciate that. I won't take it at this time just because I want everybody to be able to pro and con everything all at once so that we don't go down a route, stop, and then pro and con something else. I think that'll probably ultimately be more expedient. But other comments, discussion points people want to bring up? Doug?
There are a number of things that I don't feel like are clear enough. I mean, we've heard about land condemnation and whether it's bad optics for our side. They're never good, and there's always one of the first onerous tasks I had as a municipal attorney in Durham was land condemnation cases. So it's going to be really hard to figure out how that number ever comes out. But I still don't, and having had experience, I still don't feel like I have the information to know how to make evaluations there. The other thing is the total cost of any of these projects in terms of marginal difference, which I think is the one you'd want to look at, is sometimes I feel like it's chump change. Here's why. When we started this Greenway, back when the Bill, what's his name, Flournoy, the graduate student, thought about it, if we wanted to put a Greenway somewhere, the only people we had to make happy was the Corps of Engineers, that we weren't taking too much of the swamp. And we've changed from that. And this Greenway has every obstacle you can imagine in it. And I haven't even been paying attention to the whole length of it, but this particular example here shows that it does. So that's another thing to figure out. How are we weighing these valuations? Because I'm seeing in my mind now and then, there's huge value capture from doing the Greenway right. They did a little value capture study for Dix Park. I don't know how it came out, but the folks at the School of Government have this outfit called the Development Finance Initiative, where they'll look at what you're doing and seeing what kind of income can be said to be generated by a piece of infrastructure like a park or a greenway or highway. It started with highways, actually. And I think from some of the studies I've read, a greenway can produce, and our real estate people might want to look at some of these just for a matter of figuring out how they answer all these questions, but the range is 30% difference. If you have a really crummy greenway, it can reduce the value of property by up to 20, even more %. If you have a really great greenway, the typical number is 3%, but maybe going to 5 or even 6%. But in every case, if you have the best greenway possible, I don't think anybody said it pays for itself, but it certainly generates a prosperous area around it that folks would have to pay taxes on. And then how do you measure comparative between the incomes value captured on the east versus the west? But we need sort of to at least have I need a little better feel for how those kind of questions would be answered.
Adam, do you mind flipping to the slide? I didn't mean to catch you in mid-drink. Where all the checks and where all the X's are?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
thought that was a really valuable slide, but it was also a little difficult to follow because the white X's are partially not fulfilled, which is that it is fulfilled. It's just not. Would it be safe to say that it's fulfilled? It's just not fulfilled in a great way. I feel like that's a little misleading, that we could probably do without the white X's, but is there something concerning about some of the X's where?
So maybe I'll go through some examples. So for Plantation Road and Belvin Drive, obviously that is mostly on street, but at the end of Belvin, you go into along the stream bank there, and there's also opportunity for some stream bank restoration at the end there. So that's why it was partially fulfilled. It is mostly on road, but you come proximate to the stream bank, and you also have opportunity for stream bank restoration. So that's why there's those two partially fulfilled. Furnace and Forest sidewalks, it is a quiet road, but when you come down to 5 feet sidewalks, you have opportunities for conflicts between strollers and bicycles and wheelchairs, and also you are crossing 5 driveways, and that was the conflict point there. So not to the extent of 6 forks and those speeds, but also crossing driveways is never recommended. And then just the connection to nature, it's minimal, but if you swing into the stream, you have some connection with the stream, not the entire creek, but a little part. So you can kind of see where that's the partial fulfilling. For the most part, we tried to make it solid, but there are some cases where it's just imperfect, and I want to provide a little granularity there.
Okay. What's the partial on Anderson Forest sidewalks for stream bed?
Oh, because if it was able to get through those multiple homes, you would have an opportunity for stream bank restoration when it crosses the bridge. There's a property up that creek where that would get some stream bank restoration. We've seen some real deterioration there. So it wouldn't be on the Anderson Forest side, but crossing over the bridge, there's one property. But maybe Wayne would speak to this, but I think the devotion of that $1.2 million is to this option, but you can kind of speak to that.
Let him speak.
Hi, Wayne Miles, Stormwater Manager and Engineering Services. Yeah, so Stormwater looks for projects to partner with in other departments where we can enhance them by adding green stormwater infrastructure funding. And this type of Greenway project was a natural fit for a stream restoration project. We had a priority project identified at the very northern end of the corridor where there was a bend in the creek that the eroding bank was starting to infringe and get close enough to an actual house that rose to the level of an individual project for us that we will do regardless. But when the Greenway Trail option along the western side was proposed, there are some other areas that then that enhancement would rise to the level of a priority for stormwater to invest that funding and do the project together and provide those multiple community benefits and really save costs for us if we were doing a stream restoration solely by itself anyway, to be able to combine it with the Greenway project as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ian, you wanted to make a statement.
I appreciate you all bearing with me, and it's almost 9 o'clock, so I appreciate everybody in the audience staying here. I want to read this, and kind of reflects what I've been thinking about over the past many months and all the hours we've put into this. So I want you to picture your favorite greenway. My guess is that you're in a little slice of the outdoors on mostly level ground next to a creek or trees or a river, and you're able to relax or exercise without concern for cars. If you've ever let your kid go ahead on a bike or scooter, you know there's a world of difference in parents' stress levels on a greenway versus something roadside. It is fair to assume we all favor greenways away from streets over any other option. And absent a truly exceptional reason, our policy advice should always be to choose greenways that are separated from roads both physically and mentally. So I ask, do we have an exceptional reason in this case to choose a roadside segment over creekside? Safety for greenway users has been a prime concern from the public, whether from flash flooding or cars, and on that front my education, research, and work experience gives me a basis to explain these risks. I pulled the last 15 years of Raleigh traffic collision data from NCDOT, and over that time there's been 249 pedestrian and 30 cyclist collisions with cars at driveway crossings, many resulting in injuries. A rare outcome considering all of the driveways in Raleigh, but one that happens with real consequences. There are, of course, many more collisions with pedestrians and bicycles on the roadway every year, some fatal, furthering my suggestion that we make every foot of greenway we can away from the roads. On the other hand, flash flooding is a real risk, but one that primarily affects drivers, campers, and people intentionally entering floodwaters to swim or retrieve belongings. This section of Greenway doesn't really fit those profiles, but we can still think through the risk and judge it. Anderson Forest neighbors reported up to 3 feet of water rise beside the creek in 10 to 15 minutes during the heaviest rains, definitely meeting the standard of a flash flood. The proposed route inside the floodplain is 1,200 feet long from Bridge to Six Forks, and the lowest point is right before it meets the ramp up to Six Forks. So walking that distance at a slow pace of 2 miles per hour takes roughly 6 minutes. So even in the worst case of water rise, a greenway user that ignored all the signs of a rapidly filling creek would have adequate time to get from the bridge to Six Forks. And if they found the low point flooded, they'd still have time to return across the bridge without being in danger. The standard of reasonable behavior also applies. We get a lot of rain here, and it is common knowledge the greenways flood during heavy rains. People react accordingly. All this to say, flooding on the creekside greenway is less of a safety risk than the roadside options. The neighbors on every potential route have legitimate concerns. Change is hard, and hypothetical negatives loom larger than positives. But there are over 100 miles of greenways in Raleigh, and all of them have neighbors, some admittedly closer than others. When I moved to Raleigh, to my displeasure, I discovered a neighborhood trail behind my house connecting to our local greenway. So truly, I get the feeling of intrusion of having strangers walking in earshot of your back porch. But all it took was a few more curtains, some privacy window film, and we went on with our life. Before long, I looked at that trail as an amenity, one that I use often and that has not caused my family any grief. On the other hand, I have an active neighborhood with a lot of kids and runners and know exactly what the neighbors are saying who fear the idea of backing out of their driveway across the Greenway. Forgetting all of the challenges of easement acquisition that would be required on every route, and hopefully dismissing any thought of an option that would require a full taking of a home, I think we should get practical. We can all agree that there is space for a safe greenway on the proposed route, more so than any of the other options through front yards or along streets. The Creekside route proposal includes privacy screening, stream bank restoration, and stormwater management, which all are valuable inclusions for the homeowners affected. I know this is an unusually hard decision, and I feel for everyone involved. In the long run, though, the proposed route for 1B is the best balance of safety, usability, and community benefit, and I hope you can all support that with me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Any other comments? Daniel? Oh, Kate, go ahead.
I hope you'll bear with me because I wanted to read something too.
Sure. Go ahead.
Because so I want to be clear about, first of all, that I am very, very supportive of this overall Greenway project. I understand why it is, Big Branch is listed as the priority. I think it will make such a huge difference for so many people in this city when it's built. But I also want to explain my thinking about segment 1B. My reasons for being opposed to the west side, the proposed alignment, are that, one, I do not consider it to provide an adequate natural buffer on, can you hear me? Okay. But I do not consider it to provide an adequate natural buffer on the creek. And I am concerned that the trail will close frequently due to flooding and subsequent cleanup of silt and debris. So I'm not convinced that it will be dangerous, as Ian has said, but shutdowns like that are just really frustrating to users. I mean, I've experienced that myself, and of course it's frustrating and it's really expensive for maintenance, having to go in constantly to clean up the silt and debris. Regarding the natural buffer, the state of North Carolina has mandated buffers of at least 50 feet in the Neuse watershed to protect water quality and wildlife habitat. Although the city can apply for an exemption for a trail, I believe that the city should only do that in exceptional cases, and given that there are other routing options, I don't think this is such a case. Regarding flooding, the proposed alignment is on by far the lower elevation side of the creek that forms the natural floodplain, and I understand that Stormwater is planning to invest money in well, I understood there was some talk about a bigger pipe under Six Forks and also a stream restoration. But once again, I think that money could be spent on the other side of the creek to make a more sustainable trail. So my preferred option is for the east side of the creek. First of all, it provides a streamside route, which is what the public told us they preferred. I know that there's some questions about the validity of that vote. It feels to me, though, that, as Ian was saying, that that's what most people think of when they think of a greenway. So I would expect that most people would prefer a streamside option if there is one. The land on this side of the creek is much higher elevation and therefore less likely to flood. The route only crosses 3 tracks rather than 9. And these tracks include a property with a large parking lot, as we've talked about. I understand that the challenge with this route, I mean, I completely understand that in this instance, we would be talking about having to buy built structures. But actually what the leader of the manager of the real estate office just said to me about what the office condo said was actually encouraging. They didn't say absolutely no way, I don't want to talk. They said, we're thinking about doing certain things and this could help us. And so it sounds like they're open for a negotiation. When I measured, it looked to me like you're really talking about 1 office building, but maybe I'm wrong and maybe it's 2 to 3. There is clearly 1 residence that it would be that residence would have to go, I think. And, but maybe those people, would be willing to sell. And anyway, it sounds like they're here in the audience. But to give that person an opportunity to talk about what their interests are, that this might be an option that works, and maybe it isn't. But I definitely would like the city to have those conversations with those property owners. So given all the costs associated with the proposed route, including maintenance, long-term maintenance, I'm not convinced that the route on the east will be more expensive in the long term. And I think that the city will end up with a more beautiful, sustainable trail that is respectful of the natural world. And for all these reasons, I would really ask that the city look some more into Streamside East. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion points anybody wants to bring up?
Just to add to what Kate said, there are lots of places on the Greenway where the choke point narrows to that same distance you suggested of possibly one or no more than two of the units having to be. So I'm hearing what you say, and it's consistent with what I'm imagining we need to know to make this work. I'll look into that with a little greater scrutiny.
Daniel?
Yeah, thank you. I came tonight not knowing how I was going to vote on this and kind of hoped somebody would say something that would make this a much easier decision. But I do appreciate the members of the public, the staff, everybody that's come out, and the board members that have shared all your thoughts. It's been very helpful formulating what I think about this. I think there's still two things that sit with me or that bother me about this. You know, I hear the environmental concerns and share them to a large extent, and certainly defer to my colleagues that have much more experience with environmental issues than I do. But I do think we've spent a lot of time zoomed in on segment 1B, and I think it's helpful to me to kind of zoom out a little bit and think of the environmental impact of 9,000 folks being connected to the Greenway and the number of car trips that cuts down, and the environmental impact that'll have in the long term, and also just the culture shift that will create for our city. That's a huge thing that I want long term for this board. And I know we're only talking about a quarter mile, half a mile of Greenway, but if you look at where this quarter mile is, it's just so critical to connecting a huge swath of North Raleigh to downtown in a very direct route. The other piece to me, hearing from all the neighbors going out and walking the route was one of the most impactful things for me. I think we kind of all share that experience of that really helped me understand this project a lot better. And also hearing from the neighbors, I also live next to a Greenway easement that is undeveloped and have a sewer easement that runs down my backyard. So can certainly empathize with a lot of the concerns that they've raised. But then on Labor Day, sitting on my back deck, thinking about this, a whole troop of kids just came storming down the creek, playing and having a great time. And, it made me think about that is exactly what I would have been doing when I was a kid, and how great of an experience that is growing up in Raleigh. That is a core part of my memories of growing up in Raleigh. And the reality is the way the city's growing, the density that we have, not every kid is going to have a creek in their backyard that they can go stomp down on a Labor Day. And we're going to have to be intentional about our greenways and making sure that folks that don't have backyards have access to that experience. So, I know we've said that we're all widely supportive of the whole route, but I want to make sure that that bigger picture isn't lost in the way that we've zoomed in on individual plots of land, which is super important, I realize, but we're also talking about 9,000 folks getting connected and serving 500,000 people.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Any other discussion points that folks want to bring up? Stephen?
Question. Regarding that we're bringing up floodplains, and I know we'll try to be quick with this. Is there discussion on having signage, at least on being like if water rises, similar to a car, and maybe even some sort of siren? I don't know how much of a cost that could be, but in the sense of it hits a certain point, or there's some sort of monitoring system that the city can inform in some sort of audio and possibly visual siren.
Adam, could you speak to that? I know there is a flooding early warning system. I don't think there's a siren that goes with that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, there's a flood warning system, and we try to alert users when something's coming in. With the sophisticated science, we do get notifications 20, 30 minutes before. We can look into all of these options. As you talk about making recommendations with conditions, I think all these conditions are important in terms of making sure the trail is as sustainable as possible, all we can do to mitigate flooding, all we can do to mitigate those dangers. So that is absolutely going to be front of mind. And I will also say, whatever we go forward with, I know this has been a contentious issue, but we will work extraordinarily closely with you all, with any neighboring homes. We want to build a trail that everybody embraces, either today or in the future, and for the entire city. So designing something, whether it's the plantings or flood warning system or otherwise, we will work hand in hand with everyone in the community, because this is important to us. This doesn't end here. We are going to be with the community every step of the way and make something the best product possible.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. All right. Any other discussion points that folks want to bring up? Kara?
I just want to, earlier today we talked about cutting a path through a parking lot. A connector to the Greenway that's going to go through a parking lot, and what we can do to make that parking lot attractive. So not every part of the Greenway is scenic. There's lots of parts that stop and start, and then you get back on, you get back off. And what we're trying to achieve here is not that. We're trying to achieve a beautiful system that we can all use, and we all want that. But we don't have to have it be scenic for it to be effective. And if there's other options, not necessarily on either side of the stream or anywhere. And I know, Adam, you've gone through a lot of options and you've been super patient with us, and I really appreciate that. But I don't know, kind of along the lines of what Steve said, it just doesn't feel quite right here. So I just want to point that out.
Yep. Bob?
I guess it was a realization that I've never really thought about the privacy out the back of my house, because there's a large green space and people actually carry clubs. It's a freaking golf course. It's what you're used to living on, perhaps. It's like living on a corner. You don't have any backyard because you can see it from either angle. So maybe there's some getting used to where you are that takes some time. And they drive four-wheelers too.
April, were you going to say something? You don't have to, but you can.
The teacher in me says, let me think about it in my head before I make it public and on TV. Okay. As a born, bred, raised in Raleigh, my thought is, Adam, you are a rock star. And my only discussion point is very much to what everyone was saying about scenic. It's also not just who's using it, but it's who's using it. Once you open it up to these 9,000 people who are coming from other places besides Raleigh, and as a Raleigh native, I can say, my town, that it is very important that we think about all. When people came to Raleigh, they came here for a reason. And it always seems to me like people only care about their tree. They're not worried about the other trees as long as that tree cleared the way for them to live at Waketown or wherever. So this has been really contentious and super interesting to me because I'm from the south side of Raleigh. So eminent domain and all of those things have come, our way forever. And now that we have neighbors that look different, those things are changing. So my discussion point is I just really enjoy having all of the information. I agree with some of the board members about a little bit more information. I definitely agree about everything is not going to be scenic. So I just think that I can't even say how I would vote, even though I have all of these feelings. But I went on the walk. And some of the people were saying, I've never seen flooding anywhere else. And I was like, come to Southeast Raleigh, come to Garner Road. So it's kind of one of those things where when you live in kind of myopic view of what's going on, there's a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is the very same thing that brought a lot of people here who aren't from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments folks want to make? After this, we can open it up to a motion. Seeing none, is there a motion? Does anybody want to make a motion on this? Steve?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Big Branch Greenway connector schematic design with the exception of requesting additional information and possible further review of the 1B segment.
So is that a motion to approve 1A and not 1B?
Well, what is...
So 1A is south of Six Forks, and then
No, I
1B.
know.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I understand that. 1B, unless I'm mistaken, what they're recommending is that basically we approve the entire, they want us to approve the entire thing.
Just the segment to Waketown, so Waketown to Six Forks. But the suggestion from staff is to approve the streamside option for 1B, and then those other routes would also have been 1B because it's the same phase.
Okay. And I might have misunderstood because I'm seeing all the segments are listed here in the memo. And it's then saying that it's recommended that we review and approve the draft Big Branch Greenway connector schematic design. And that everything seems to be included in that. Is that the case?
Right. So on the map that's being shown right here, so that 1B segment is the stretch from Six Forks to Waketown, but staff's recommendation is to do the streamside option for that.
That's right.
Okay, so we're only being asked to segment 1A and 1B?
Well, this design and construction is for 1A and 1B, and all the controversy obviously is on 1B.
Yeah, and the other sections are being built by the private sector. So Section 3 is being built by public-private partnership. Section 5 is being built by the Raleigh Department of Transportation. So the vote tonight would be on Sections 1A and 1B and Section 4, and the recommendation for 1B is the streamside option west.
Can I ask a clarifying procedural question?
Yeah.
Can we only make like one big recommendation, or can there be?
We could break it down, and we could approve 1A and 4 since those don't seem controversial, and maybe recommend 1B with additional information like we did earlier for the community connectors. Yeah.
What you just said is what I would say.
Okay.
In the motion.
So why don't we let's take it one at a time. Is there a motion to approve segment 4? Okay. There's a motion to approve segment 4. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Segment 4 is approved. Is there a motion to approve 1A?
Motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All those opposed? Okay. So 1A passes. So now we're down to 1B. Which I think is obviously where all the controversy is. Is there a motion on the floor regarding 1B that anybody would like to make?
Can I offer a motion to approve it with a streamside option and ask that staff do a evaluation of what the acquisitions on both sides of the creek would be and make a apples to
really,
apples?
the board cannot direct staff to make appraisals. That's
Okay.
a real estate transaction, which would be required by council.
Can we ask an estimate of the time it would take to get appraisals, even if we're not asking for the appraisal itself?
He could probably tell you how long it would take the appraisals, but the appraisal is it's going to be one step in a series of negotiations.
Okay.
Which you would not yield a number at the end for you.
Right, it would be an estimate. So could we make a motion to suggest to council that they choose the streamside option, but that we recommend that they ask for the appraisals and they choose the cheaper route, since they can ask for the appraisal?
You can do that if the board believes that it cost getting to board member Burnett's, is cost the driving factor or is safety, these criteria that we showed you. I think that's the policy consideration at this board. Is cheaper always better, or putting people at risk, what the board is concerned? So that's what you all have to wait. It's not, I don't think, to the board, it should be just about dollar and cents. It is where do you want to place people in a bike and pedestrian setting?
Yeah, and
That
I think
is really what we got to.
Yeah, and I think that everybody here has heard all the arguments, and we understand there's a number of factors, right? There's cost, there's the environmental factors, there's the safety factors. I think different members of the board have different ones of those concerns as being paramount in their own minds. So if somebody does make the motion that I just mentioned, and I'm not suggesting it, I'm not suggesting against it, but if somebody makes that motion, if you have a reason that you think is more compelling than the reason that's being suggested, feel free to vote against it. We don't have to all vote for whatever motion is made here, but that's.
Is there any order where we could ask for some information about the west-east option where it goes up through the parking lot, it crosses over and avoids those backyards?
I think if we did that, we'd be asking staff to take that back and get more information on that, since that's not one of the options that was, yeah. So I think in that case, we'd not be moving to approve 1B. We'd be asking staff to gather more information, and we'd have to vote on this at a future time.
Can I make a simple
Yeah,
motion?
yeah.
There's still a motion on the table, technically.
Yeah, there's technically.
Well, yeah, sorry, can I modify it to say approve a stream side option with a preference for the east side by the board? And y'all can.
So you're approving the east side stream side option?
And option.
Or you,
I think you got to choose one.
you could ask for additional information on
I think that delays
both
it.
stream side options. I mean, that's really what we're sort of saying.
And I would want to be prescriptive. What is it? Because this would be the third time we've come here to, like, what is it? When you say additional information, that is one of the broadest statements that we could.
Well,
Yeah, I think we're.
we can narrow it, but we can't, I guess, we can't ask for an assessment, but I think where some of us are struggling is we really don't have any idea where the costs are going to go with this. And we didn't see any really costs on the west-east or the west option, did we?
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to balance, like, we're just making a recommendation to council. It's up to them to decide. So
Well,
I'm trying to narrow it to at least approving those two routes.
well, and to drill down a little bit more, Stephen, what Stephen put to us was, is cost the biggest factor, or could it be safety or something else? But all of the stream side options don't cross driveways if we're cutting through the parking lot and taking the land that's the condos and the house. That still would be equally safe, I would imagine, if we're not crossing driveways. So,
Could we say something about, to council about what interests us about the east side? So that even though we don't have all those costs, that they understand what it is that is making us interested.
so a motion to adopt a stream side option, but with the comment that we have concerns regarding what the cost would be on each of those sides, and letting council know that it's up to them to dig into those. Would that generally be? Okay.
But I was thinking also that we would say something about, on the east side, we see that there will be less there will be less flooding on the east side too. So there's a positive side for that. Fewer
Yeah.
landowners, less flooding.
Just point of clarification, they're both in the floodplain. So
Or it's higher elevation.
Point of order, whoever's making the motion has to be the one to decide whether or not how to modify it.
Yeah.
And then it can be declared, and then someone else can make one. I'm just.
Yeah, we'll let Daniel finalize what the actual motion is, but obviously there's kind of discussion on the table in terms of how you want to
the
phrase
gist-
that.
I think Kate is getting at the gist of where I was going.
Okay. So Daniel is ceding the motion to the wording of the motion to Kate.
Oh, yikes.
Or I can.
Yeah, good.
That we approve a stream side option and ask council to take a hard look at the east side. I don't know.
May I comment on this?
Yeah, sure.
Can we provide a preference?
Oh,
I don't know that there is a preference. So I'm trying to come up with a consensus, but.
Let me table the motion. Yeah, I'm just going to table the motion really quick. We're looking at, it sounds like a lot of folks are looking at the two stream side options, the east side and the west side, which is recommended by staff. It sounds like board members have a concern about the costs of each of those, because those are a question mark at this time. It sounds like flooding, obviously, on the west side is a concern, but the east side is also potentially in the floodplain. I would say that maybe what we want to do is make a recommendation to council that they adopt the stream side option, and probably the stream side option suggested by staff, with the caveat that there's a big unknown, which is the cost. And if the cost on the east side is lower, that should probably be factored into council's decision, that the east side stream side option might be better than the west side option, so that they get that guidance from this board that spent a lot of time hearing that. Is that accurate, or?
Oh, That's a nice way to
Yes.
say it.
Okay. All right. So,
If Giovanna got all that.
yeah, we'll play back. So is that the motion you want to make?
Yes, that is.
Okay. So I think everybody followed what I just said, but motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Should you go to pro and con debate on the motion?
Would anybody like a pro and con debate on this? I was going to call for acclamation because if everybody approves it, then there might not be any cons, but maybe that's optimistic. Okay. Is there?
You want better explanation?
Go ahead.
No, can you read that?
Say that again. So I
Or
think.
say it?
Yeah, I think the recommendation is to approve to council that they approve the recommended stream side option, which is the west side option, with the caveat that we recommend that council look into the costs of both of those, because both the west side recommended option and the east side option that's not being recommended, because the costs associated with each of those is currently unknown, and that council should consider going the west side route if that ends up being cheaper based on real estate appraisal costs.
Except that, except that we really don't know what the east side, we don't have a schematic design of the east side option. We don't really know whether it exists in any kind of practical form to determine how much it costs. So maybe that would come up when the council starts thinking about comparing the costs. That how do you compare the costs when you don't have a good sense of what one of the comparables
I
is
guess
going to consist
what I heard
of?
from staff is that we can't get that from the staff, and it has to go to council. So
I just want
it
to
would be
make a
up
point
to
of
them.
clarity, maybe allow Kimley Horn to speak, because we have surveyed both sides, so we have a lot of information, and we have done some land acquisition analysis, not an appraisal, so we can speak to the cost of both options as well as the high-level land acquisition.
Yep. So the first element, the first time we went to the public, we considered an east and a west option along the stream side. We did costs that were associated with those. The costs that we were associated from a property acquisition perspective were square footages based on either the tax value, if it was a private property, personal property, residential property, excuse me, that had a tax value. The businesses there, the one expressly, the co-op that is there, did not have a tax value. We based that on a business style tax value that was there. It was not an appraisal. It was meant from a comparison perspective only, not a market value perspective. That value was higher than the value on the east side when you're just looking at those square footage. It is not a market value analysis. It doesn't account for loss of parking. It doesn't account for structural changes. That has been done. We have looked at a feasibility level alignment that's along that east side. We have not looked at a conceptual design level. So I'm just
And
trying
we don't know whether it's 2 or 3 units.
Correct. Well, let me rephrase that. The original feasibility study alignment that we looked at on that side, we entered into the buffer that we were asked recently, what would it look like if we didn't enter into the buffer? If we don't enter into the buffer, that's what we're looking at, 2 to 3 of those co-op units. If we are willing to enter into the buffer, which is not uncommon with greenways, we felt like there's a chance we could avoid any co-op impact at that location.
That's interesting.
But that's a feasibility level look at it. But that's.
That matters if we're asking council to compare costs when the cost is different ranges from 3 units to 0.
Right, but we don't.
But that's based on, that difference is based on the willingness to enter the buffer.
Sure, and then how do we decide that? I mean, that's what we should talk about.
But we don't decide it, I guess is the point. Like, the council has to decide that.
When you say buffer, do you mean the riparian buffer?
Yes, ma'am.
So on the east side, it's all in the riparian buffer. I'm sorry. On the east side, it's all in the riparian buffer, and so we're not sure if we can go into the riparian buffer on the west side? Am I missing something?
Well, I think, I'll just to clarify so we can look at the two options. This east side option was designed and you'll see close to the riparian buffer, it did not avoided townhouses, potentially 35 parking spaces being removed and 10 feet from that last home. So that is the option that they assessed. They surveyed, they did a cost assessment, they did a high-level land acquisition assessment. They did find that that was more expensive. The reason why we're talking about the 2 to 3 townhomes is that is a new option that has been posed by Kate. So it's not the surveying work that they've done and the assessment that they've done. It's because if you want to move even farther from the stream, you would have to remove 2 to 3 townhomes, the entire home, not be 10 feet, but remove the entire home and then be 20 feet close to the other one. So that is why what they've looked at in terms of the acquisition costs and the costs are for this proposal, which is being very close to those homes, but still within a riparian buffer. If we're talking about that, that would be a survey and assessment of a third option. So they have found that this option, which does not knock down any homes, but is very close to homes, is more expensive than the west side option, both in land acquisition and construction. But the land acquisition or easement would be even more expensive if there was 2 to 3. But that is, a cost you weigh.
Adam, is that the bridge with when not going near the homes? Bridge?
This one is, if you look here, maybe.
Yeah, this is no bridge. This is all on the east side.
Okay, so we're not talking, we didn't need to go into bridge.
May I? Good.
Yeah. Sorry, I think there's some discussion questions over here. Bob, did you have a question?
I keep listening to this, and the east side and the west side, but the east side is apples and oranges. We didn't ask about buying 4 units. We asked about building a second crossing of the creek in order to bring the Greenway back to the east side and not go through those backyards. And I bet you can build a bridge cheaper than you can buy 4 townhomes, in my opinion.
Well, if you only stay on the east side, we won't need any bridges because if we only stay on the east side, we won't need any bridges because we're already on the.
It comes down the west side. There's already a bridge bringing it to the west side because there's an area you can't go through. It's too close. It's also flooding.
And you'd have to take somebody's house.
But there's an option. The east-west option was to put in a second crossing that would bring the Greenway back to the east side and then take it down through the parking lot. I believe there's a possibility you can buy parking spots cheaper than you can backyards.
Yeah. And this was the option that was requested after the tour. Usually we only do 1 survey and 1 acquisition. In this case, we did 3, so it's already unusual. And it's a response to this is a hard one. Lots of requests are made. So we looked at this option. You could come up with 14 other permutations. We looked at 3 surveys and 3 assessments. So those are the options that we have. But yeah, there are other variations.
Okay. Kate, I think you had a question, unless you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I understood that the analysis that was done on Streamside East to avoid impacting any structures was to build an elevated boardwalk and a retaining wall, and that was extremely expensive. So the land acquisition, the acquisition would be the way to reduce that cost, all of the retaining wall and the elevated boardwalk. Maybe you all understood that.
Can I move to the previous question and have debate on the motion?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's debate the motion that's on the floor. We have a motion that's out there that Daniel made. There's a second. Technically, we need to vote on it, but we can have a pro and con debate on it. So we'll go back and forth, and I'll entertain first a pro argument for the motion. Is there a pro argument for it?
Can I speak in favor of my motion? I think some of it's trying to stay within the scope of what we can do as an advisory board. I think some of the kind of extraordinary things we're talking about doing of taking homes like that is lies with city council and council. And I guess I'm just trying to thread the needle of it feels like we have a lot of consensus. This is a really important stretch, that we have 2 really not great options that we have narrowed it down to, and that at this point it would be up to council to work out all the unknowns that are left on this point.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Con, Linda?
I think we've made the motion much too complicated. The option before us is to approve or recommend to council that the Streamside West option, or we don't vote to recommend that option to council. That's clear and straightforward. If we then want to craft a statement to council that says, we'd like you to think about all these other things, we might try to do that, but we'll be here till midnight. So I would request a much simpler motion.
Okay.
I agree with Linda.
Second.
Right. Any other?
Whatever that order should be.
Make it.
Any other pro arguments? Anybody pro motion? Ian?
Well, I think going back to, the mission statement of the park board is we're supposed to advise on policy of choices and land acquisition. This gets into both of them. We should not worry about the cost in the great sense that over a 50-year lifespan, the difference between the west or the east or multiple bridges or a whole bridge is going to be minimal, negligible. What we should be focusing on is what is best for the Greenway system, the spirit of Raleigh's, Greenway system. I don't know if we can vote as our comment, that don't let cost hold you back, but we're looking for the best Greenway. But this motion, I think, would allow for that to happen.
Okay. Before I ask for any other con arguments, are there any other pro arguments? Because I heard a lot of potential cons. Okay, seeing none, why don't we go ahead and vote on this motion? This extremely complicated.
On with the recommendation in a sense.
What?
On the con debate, just if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the recommendation. So again, why I was bringing up the con debate is in the sense to move to a motion to at least do the stream side, with the west, the original one that was recommended by the parks, and if that fails, then move to see how we can table it and not bother city council necessarily with having to deal with this longer. And we, as the parks board, keeps looking in before making city council have to deal, I guess, with this as a issue. So.
Got it. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the really complex motion that I made earlier, worded for Daniel, say aye. Nobody. Okay. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Motion fails. Is there another motion on the floor? A simpler one, perhaps? Stephen?
I move to approve what Greenway and
Staff's recommended
the stream
west side.
Creekside West, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right. We need to do a show of hands because that was closer than. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. I'll raise my hand. 4, 5. Anybody else? No? All those opposed, raise your hand. All right, 1, 2, 3. That fails. The motion fails. Okay. Is there another motion on the floor? Stephen.
I move to table this until we gather more information for the November meeting.
I have a quick question for staff.
Yeah, I would want to make sure we're
if we
clear
just
what is
decide that we don't recommend it, does that just go to council as we didn't endorse this option?
You can say the board did not reach a majority decision on any option, and maybe work with the chair on crafting a statement of concerns and opportunities, and he would work with the board liaison.
Okay. All right. So a motion's been made and seconded to table this discussion until November. Knowing what Stephen just said, though, that we could send this to council with.
I actually.
You can retract your motion.
My motion,
All right.
assuming that the November meeting is essentially what the parks is really planning for this discussion already happened at city council.
I don't know if this is out of order, but if I may, and I think Stephen will come to a close. I appreciate exactly what was just said, the idea that we don't support, but what we're all trying to figure out how to say are those things that we have concerns about that I feel like council's going to want to know what were our concerns. And so if we can push this forward saying we don't agree because we have these concerns is just as valid as coming up with the best one, which may take us more hours. I will happily help craft or do whatever's necessary, but I believe that's the end state I think that is appropriate based upon where we are, not just at this hour, but the information we have.
Yeah, and I think Steve Breckbiel said it really well, that nobody on the board here really is opposed to a connector here. We all recognize the importance of connecting. But which route is the best one seems to be where we can't get consensus. So if there's a motion on the floor to send this to council without recommending a particular route, and then if folks want to cooperate with me to craft a statement about what our concerns are with each route, I'll take that motion.
Specifically for 1B.
Specifically for 1B. Yeah, this is not.
Make a motion.
And 1B, for clarification, 1B is this alignment. It's not, or is this segment. It's not any particular alignment.
So you've made the motion. I second it.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes, absolutely.
Can we vote against an option just to make it clear to council what options we have narrowed it to, or what range?
I think it would be simpler if we listed the concerns with each alignment. So whether it's the Streamside one, whether it's the Plantation Hines, Plantation Belvin, some of these other ones as well.
I just want to eliminate the more elaborate ones that are like going along the roads, going across the bridge over Six Forks.
Yeah.
I think we can clarify that in comments. I don't think we
Yeah.
have to vote.
Okay.
Yep.
With the comments, can we just ensure that the failed motion of the 5 to 10 on the stream side is sent with that? That like this was the original
Yep.
failed one, and now we're
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So they understand that we tried. Okay. So motion to send this to council, but without any route endorsed, and we will craft a statement that captures our concerns with each of the routes. That motion's been made. It sounded like it was seconded.
That was me.
Okay, thank you. Specific to 1B? Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Let's do show of hands again. I'll support my own motion. That motion passes. Okay. All right. Good job, guys.
May I say something?
Yes, you may, Bob. Go ahead.
I am totally impressed and thankful for every one of you being at this table. This is very difficult. Everyone here cares, gets involved, feels emotional, and does the best we can. And for volunteers, nobody could ask for better.
Thank you, Bob. Speaking for the whole board. I feel the same way. Now I need to find my agenda because we actually got past this item. Yeah.
Would there a motion to depending on how long do we have, do you think, left on it?
We can move pretty quickly through the rest of these, I think. Yeah.
Got a bylaws update.
All right. Next action item is an approval of the past meeting minutes. Everybody read that?
I read them.
Is there, what was that?
Two separate ones.
There's two. I thought it was just October, or I mean September.
January.
No, it's the
January
January
and
as
September.
well,
Okay.
from what was held from last month.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve either both of those minutes as a slate or one or the other. I suggest the slate.
She likes them separate.
Okay.
Motion to approve January.
Okay. Motion to approve January's been made. Is there a second? It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. All those opposed? All right. January passes. Is there a motion on September? All right. Made, seconded?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All right. All those opposed? No. It passes. All right. Next item, we are to the director's report.
Yeah, I'll
Mr.
announce
Director.
one thing.
Okay.
And I'll skip the rest. You have the report
We do.
in your
Thank you.
packet of materials. But last month, our team flew to Florida in Orlando. I couldn't tell you at last month, but we scored perfect on our accreditation. So 154 out of 154. Very rarely. So out of 10,000 park agencies in the United States, only 2% are accredited. And most large agencies do not reach a perfect score because of complexity. So my entire team here is, oh, they're still here. Yes. I do want to specifically call out Andrea White, who is our accreditation manager. She was like herding cats, but our accreditation team that came here described her as passionate, detailed, oriented, and relentless, which I like. So, yeah, so we will have a beautiful trophy to share with you. They mail it to us. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten it yet. But yeah, it's a big accomplishment for Raleigh Parks. So, yep. Awesome. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Okay, we'll try to move through the rest of these quickly. Parks Committee did not meet, but I do want to announce that Bob Edgerton and Carrie Hasbrook have agreed to be co-chairs of this committee moving forward. So thank you for taking that off my plate. Greenway Committee.
We met and heard about the connectors that you all approved tonight and heard some wonderful public comment about Big Branch.
Fantastic. Sustainability Committee.
We had a great meeting.
Oh, could you pull your mic down? In case anybody's still watching.
We had a really great meeting. Zach Manor with Urban Forestry has put together a list of native trees and shrubs that is being provided to the planning department to give to developers. It's not a requirement, but it's to help them easily find native plants and trees that will do well in Raleigh and hopefully really improve the diversity of what's being planted. And they'll actually be presented to council in November and then get out to the planning department. And then our chief of horticulture, Lauren Freudenberger, she is working on a really exciting list that will be available to the public to help the public find native plants. And one thing she's really focused on is trying to find plants that are also easy to find. Sometimes when you go on a native plant list, it's like you can never find that plant if you wanted to buy it. But she's really putting together a list. And that is going to be part of the leaf out report. So it'll take a little bit longer to come out, but we're really excited about that. And our next meeting is going to focus on the proposal of planting 24,000 trees in Raleigh by the city's 240th anniversary in 2032.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot one thing on the Greenway Committee, that there is still time to find frogs on the Greenway as part of the scavenger hunt for Friends of Raleigh Greenway. I have found 3. So I don't know if anybody's beaten that, but
I'm still at 0. So
you have until a date that Jeff probably knows. Sorry.
I'm guessing no Fred Fletcher report this month? No. Okay. Liaison reports, Arts Commission, I don't have a report for that. BPAC. Bob, do you have a report? Will you play your mic down? Oh, your microphone.
Microphone.
Sorry, it's been long. They're concentrating on updating the active mobility plan, which they do periodically, which helps to enhance the interface of all the different modes of transportation and safety issues. A lot of it's focused towards pedestrians and different routes and corners and things like that. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Dick's leadership, I'm going to skip over Dick's leadership. Historic resources, do you want to skip over that or?
No report.
Okay. And PRGAB bylaws update. The update was going to be that there were no changes suggested to the bylaws.
We made the suggested ones that you
provided. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Great. But there might be another suggested change to the bylaws. Do you want to hold off on that?
Do we want this to be done? Because I can postpone it till next meeting or something.
We can postpone it and then I'll connect with.
Okay.
Is that okay? I didn't know how immediately they wanted.
No, Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll hold off on that, but let's
We
connect.
can hold off till next month.
We'll connect. Why don't you email me and copy Stephen and Giovanna, and that way we'll get this done quickly, but not tonight. Parks Bond Community Engagement Liaison reports. Anybody meet with their bond groups?
Thanks
Karen?
for passing the Heritage Walk.
Yeah, fantastic. Chair report. I just want to say thank you guys. I know you spent a lot of time on this. I know it was kind of a heart-wrenching decision. I know our end decision might sound like a cop-out, but I really don't think it was. We had a lot of concerns. We have a lot of different viewpoints. I think they're all valid. But I think we all agree that it's really important to get the Greenway connector done for the good of the city. At the same time, I don't think we take the concerns of any of the neighbors lightly. And I think that's why this was such a heart-rending decision either way. And I think Bob actually put it much better than I could. So that is it. If anybody else doesn't have any statements, Steve?
Very quickly.
The Dix Park coordination with Habitat for the volunteers, for the trolls, really well done. I was at a
Did you
super secret
volunteer?
location,
Okay.
and I helped assemble a troll. There were no injuries, and but really just a great coordination and volunteer effort involving Habitat. The artist and his crew were all super engaging. So really nice job on that volunteer opportunity.
It's in the manager's report. There's some opportunities to engage in the next probably week or so because they're close to being done.
Can I also good-naturedly throw Doug Johnson under the bus for writing a critical story of the trolls and then fleeing the country for a month?
You know, I did.
Okay.
And
all right. Meeting adjourned.
It's going to be very productive when we get around to figuring out what I was saying.
Thank you.